Thank you. Good evening. Bring this meeting to order. Emmet County Planning Commission. It's 7 p.m. May 7th, 2026. Our regular Planning Commission meeting. Excuse me. Monica, roll call, please.
Sure. Yearman?
Here.
Lapa?
Here.
Herzig?
Hello there.
Neal?
Yes.
Edie?
Here.
Bates?
Here.
Alexander?
Here.
Gooding?
Here.
Pinterman? Here. Everybody's here.
Awesome. Full board. Great. Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Everyone hear me? Okay out there? Lights are hot. Okay, this time, agenda, welcome board members, everyone, if I could say that. Approval of minutes of April 9th, 2026. Any additions, deletions, corrections? We got anything here?
Oh, that's been withdrawn, so then.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor of motion as presented signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, we have a revised agenda here. First case is withdrawn by applicant, and so no unfinished site plans, Tammy, correct? And so we'll go to
Correct.
the first case this evening. Laura, or?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
sure. All right, this case is PSUP 26003, Adam Boyce with Red Eye Brewing Company. This is a request for a special use permit and site plan review. Proposal is for a drive-through coffee shop at 2745 Kegomic Road, Section 34 in Bear Creek Township, and tonight this would be our first review. Yeah, I'll use that. All right, here is the location map. You can see it's near the intersection of US 31 and M119, just north of US 31. And, what, no? Oh, it's not on. All right, and this is an aerial map now, where we can see the parcel cleared a little bit. This was originally developed as part of the car wash that is at the corner there. On this parcel is a previous site plan that was approved that was originally envisioning a detailing center along with vacuum cleaner stanchions. Those vacuum cleaners were installed on the western portion of the parcel, and this proposal would remove that proposed building that would be the detailing center and instead have this proposed drive-through on the southeastern portion of that piece. Moving along, just again another closer view where you can see its current access point on Kegomic, and Kegomic goes out to both M119 Harbor-Petoskey Road and through Zager Road out onto US 31. All right, some background and facts on this case. As I mentioned, they propose a drive-through coffee shop. Just want to mention restaurants are a use by right in the B2 zoning district. This is requiring special use permit because of the drive-through element. That is a requirement in the ordinance. The coffee shop would be just a drive-through only business with a walk-up window is shown for quick service pickup for online ordering. The subject parcel is 1.65 acres and is zoned B2 general business, as I mentioned. Property is served by municipal sewer, and an on-site well is proposed to serve it. Access to the coffee shop is, again, via that existing driveway off of Kegomic. All surrounding zoning, around the parcel is also B2 zoning district. Adjacent uses include that car wash right at the corner to the south, an insurance office to the southwest. The state police post is just to the east of this parcel, and vacant land directly to the north and west. Continuing with the background here, the subject parcel, as I mentioned, has another use that was approved in May of 2022. And again, that auto detailing facility would be replaced by the proposed coffee shop. The previous approved site plan included that over 8,000 square foot vehicle detailing building. 13 vacuum stations have been installed. We'll move on. So this is a picture of the site plan that was approved in 2022. You can see this is the location of the vacuum cleaner stanchions on the west side that have been installed. This is the about 8,200 square foot facility that was previously approved. To the north is this pad for, it was intended for RVs, to have a place for, specifically for RV detailing. This is the first proposed site plan on your desks and sent to you via email. You received a revised site plan from the applicant. This shows the originally proposed site plan that the zoning evaluation is based on. What they showed here coming off of Kegomic was an access, off of this kind of main access point or driveway into the site, vacuum cleaner stanchions on the side here, and two entrance points into the proposed drive-through business, which is here. So the intent would be drive-through going in a counterclockwise direction here. This is the revised site plan. Recommendation by staff and also mirrored in concerns by the Planning Commission for Bear Creek Township was the amount of stacking space between the drive-through, the first drive-up window, and that access drive. It did show the minimum space required for 5, 10-foot by 20-foot parking spaces for cars for that stacking. It did allow for that, but if you have more than 5 cars waiting for service, the potential to impact this entrance drive and then potentially spill out onto Kegomic was cited as a concern. So the recommendation was to consider maybe eliminating that southern drive and just using farther to the north, and the applicant on their own accord went ahead and came up with this revised plan, which shows far more stacking space to wrap around the building and continue that same counterclockwise circulation. This is an elevation plan of the proposed building, showing this is that walk up, pickup window, and the drive-through space. No inside seating proposed. Photos of the site. You can see the access point, and sometimes this is closed off depending on how it has been closed off, depending on how busy the car wash is to the south. But then you can see the vacuum cleaner stanchions there. Photo on the right is kind of looking off to the right. You're good. Yep. These photos, the photo on the left is looking east. Am I saying that right? I'm sorry. So yeah, looking west. And then looking north into the site again. All right, so just a summary of what the Planning Commission has received, because they have received a lot. They have, I'm sorry, is this right? Yeah, the Planning Commission has already received the complete application packet and the original proposed site plan. The revised site plan received yesterday was forwarded, and the hard copy is on your desk. We have the fire chief review. There was 2 conditions to be met, approved design driveway and a Knox box for the building. The previously approved site plan, meaning the 2022 site plan for what had previously been approved on that site, was also in your packet. We had a stormwater review that has been updated twice, and most recently on your desk for the plan, the site plan, yesterday, as you saw from the revised plan, it really changed that detention basin, so that was updated. The road agency review was not received when the zoning evaluation was done, but we did receive that and it was sent to you in the first supplement. The road agency determined that the proposal complies with Emmet County Road Commission standards and no modifications or additional improvements to the driveway access would be required. The health department was asked to just take a look. The health department has no concerns with the proposal. They did mention in an email the possibility of needing an eagle review just based on some site conditions nearby, but that's something that would be handled outside of it. But from their perspective, no, they didn't see any concerns initially. Also, you received the zoning evaluation. We'll be going through that and the items for further review shortly. Bear Creek Township Planning Commission draft meeting minutes were included in your supplement, and you have received multiple public comments submitted prior to the meeting. I will kind of summarize that when we get to the public hearing portion of the review and make sure that we note for the record all of the written comments that have been received before we open it up to the public in attendance. The review process for this will be conducted according to Article 11, the B2 General Business District, Article 21 for special use permit, of course, Article 20 site plan review, 22 general provisions that apply, and then for supplemental regulations, Section 26.11 of the zoning ordinance details supplemental regulations for drive-through and drive-up businesses. So as always in the zoning evaluation, the last page summarizes all of the items that during the staff review and that evaluation that would warrant further discussion by the Planning Commission tonight. And this page it reflects exactly what you have. Actually, it's 2 pages, but it reflects exactly what you have in your zoning evaluation. That'll be helpful as you go through the review to kind of check through each of those items and make sure that they are covered. So we have them broken out by special land use, site plan review, and supplemental regulations. But the items are for this first one under special land use is really just referencing the fact that any supplemental regulations have to be met. And so as far as setbacks, parking, greenbelts, height, and all of that, it's noted in the zoning evaluation that the proposal meets all of those standards. Vehicle circulation and access, Emmet County Road Commission did review the access point, and that wasn't in your original zoning evaluation, but as I mentioned, you have it now and there are no concerns. Township review, just want to note, you received the draft Planning Commission minutes, and the Bear Creek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this case. We were notified today that the Bear Creek Township Board met last night, and they recommended denial. We do not have anything in writing for that, but Tammy, did you want to summarize what your understanding is?
Sure. So, thanks to our friends at Ion Emmet, we were able to watch the meeting from last night, and the township made a recommendation to deny the request, and it was unanimous, and it was based on safety concerns for traffic as it relates to entering the highway and the highways, US 31 and M119. And so, like I said, we don't have anything in writing, but we have that verbally, and then we were able to watch that video. So that's what we have from the township. And by the way, the Township Planning Commission, as you saw in the minutes, their recommendation was a 6-1 vote.
Okay. Under site plan review, vehicular and pedestrian circulation, emergency vehicle access, were items for discussion, as well as, drainage. The performance guarantee, though, we did, drainage, we met the standards. The only thing that we were missing was the estimated cost of the installation of that stormwater, and we did receive that. That's another item that you received as supplement, and that, oops, that is not what I meant to do. That estimate, was $3,000 based on their, professional engineer's, determination of the cost. Next is, supplemental regulations. Similar to the other items for further review, these all had to do with vehicle access and circulation, and stacking spaces. So, again, I noted that 5 spaces could have been provided in the previous, but then they still ended up revising the site plan, that did address many of the items that staff noted, for, possible discussion or, concerns. So, just wanted to make sure you understand that the zoning evaluation was based on the original plan, and it has been revised. So, review today, we should base it on that revised site plan that was received. Again, this is the plan, and we can leave this up for the applicant presentation, but in the meantime, are there any questions for staff before we move on?
I just have a quick logistical question. I haven't watched the whole Eye on Emmet video, but did the township board have the updated site plan before their meeting last night?
It was emailed to them when we received it.
Okay.
And they met yesterday? Sorry, they met yesterday?
They met last night, yes.
Employee parking?
Go ahead.
Yeah, all of the parking that is shown on the plan here, there is no, seating on the inside for, customer seating. So all of that employee parking is right along, the front. Here's the building, there's, the access right here. So employee parking is provided here, and it does meet the minimum standards for the ordinance, for number of parking spaces.
Okay, for the amount of staffing,
Right.
okay.
Yep. I believe, and this can be a question for the applicant, but I believe that the intent, this is like a patio space that comes up to the, outside, pickup window, and I don't know that it's necessarily gonna be identified as such, but that would be parking for a car coming for pickup as well, would be needed. But in terms of, the way that we determine the number of minimum parking spaces is based on the size of the building, floor area, the type of use, and that calculate out to 6, I believe. And it's sufficient based on the review.
I really like the reconfiguration,
Yeah.
but the, road commission is not, we don't have anything?
They said it was all compliant.
Okay,
Yes, initially, when the zoning evaluation was done, we didn't have it, but we have since received their review, and it was compliant, and they recommended no additional improvements to that site access.
and that didn't fly with them last night.
Well, 2 different bodies.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but, nobody wants to have problems, but that's why you have folks like that to,
Yeah, and there was some follow-up, Tammy, touched base with the road commission, more of an engineer rather than the technician that is mostly looking at site distance and access points. Because the planning commission does have the discretion to request a traffic study. You can do that if you desire. But Tammy did, inquire about that, and I don't know, instead of speaking for you, maybe you.
Well, I wanted to follow up after the township's recommendation, just to see if the road commission had any concerns with their approval. And it did not appear that they would. It is up to the planning commission. There's a provision in the ordinance that does allow for a traffic impact study. This is proposed to be 300 cars per day. Granted, there are other uses in the vicinity that, they cumulatively add to it. I don't know that, you can require a specific use that's low impact you know, it's like the last one in has to bear the cost of the traffic study. I'm not sure, you know, how you determine that a traffic study is done. It's not specifically laid out in our zoning ordinance, and the road engineer didn't seem to think that that was, something that would have to be required based on his comments to me today.
Laura, during the presentation, you referenced the previous site plan, which included the 8,000 square foot detailing center. This building is 800 square feet as proposed. But then you mentioned that it was, I thought you said Arby's in the back? Arby's detailing?
RVs,
RVs.
recreational vehicles.
I didn't know they were diversifying or what. I was like, man, they would've had a drive-through and they got the soaps and the meats, but. Okay. All right.
Got a sandwich with.
All good.
Recreational vehicles.
All good. That's all I got.
Okay.
Those acronyms that catch you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll address the concern, yes, we did last night, as I said on Township Board. We did vote 5-0 to deny the case, and we did have the revised site plan in front of us last night. And after discussion, I can get into more of what we discussed. So, traffic was a huge issue, so. Okay. Any other questions, staff, applicant? Or before I go to applicant? Applicant like to speak on this case this evening?
Good evening, everybody. How are y'all? My name is Joshua Runyon. I'm actually the property owner, Adam Boyce, the applicant. This opportunity and what we're trying to bring is essentially a potential position to create the existing traffic that's already coming through the car wash, to provide existing benefit for the community relative to their daily habits, errands, and things. That being said, we've gone through all the processes, provided everything, and as everybody had indicated, capitulated and made our own decision to make changes in order to facilitate things relative to the stacking rate, even though we had already met those standards. Additionally, our understanding, based on the documentation, the certified letters that we had received relative to the dates and times of the meetings that were associated with this case, we were aware of a meeting on April 29th, and we were aware of tonight's meeting. We were not aware of a meeting last night. This morning at 9 o'clock, I received an email indicating that it had been denied after it had been a 5-to-1 or 6-to-1 approval originally. We still have not received the minutes, but it was so gracious to Emmet, those individuals, for us to be able to identify what the main concern was, which was traffic. First thing I'd like to speak to are projections. That intersection of 119 and 31 on a daily average account for roughly 29,656 cars, with 70% being accounted for via MDOT. When I built the car wash, I did a very conservative estimate of a 1.62% capture rate. I presumed that I would catch 350 cars a day on average at the car wash. We have been in operation for more than 27 months. To date, we have washed 158,860 cars, all of which have exited Kegomic and Zyger. I also have with me, following a FOIA request for the local traffic incidents for the last 2.5 years of Zyger, Kegomic, in front of the car wash, information that shows only one accident occurred on October 6th of 2025 at the intersection of Zyger and US 31, the traffic highway entrance. Additionally, as far as the car wash is concerned, our only highway access is an entry-only point. Everybody is flowed out through Kegomic. Hence the benefit of having that north lot and the potential opportunity for an errand hub with coffee, dry cleaning, whatever, because it's not on the other side of town. Having said that, the reality is that the winter, snow, precipitation, etc., is a significant compression on retail sales. For the last 2 years, with those numbers of cars, I have averaged 187 cars a day, well below my expectation of a projection. I do not believe that a coffee shop, even though it would be extremely valued and beneficial to the local community, is going to increase traffic more than twofold relative to what it already is. We have worked hard over the last 2.5 years to establish ourselves within the community as a place to be used and a tool to be used. And we understood that it would take a couple of years for everybody to know what this car wash is and how to use it. Moreover, the numbers show that year over year we are growing. That being said, based on the FOIA information and everything that I was provided by the Charlevoix, Sheboygan, Emmet County Central Dispatch this afternoon, nowhere in there in the last 2.5 years that we've been open have we caused any incidents of traffic incidents or accidents. However, there have been 17 accidents, property damage, personal injuries directly from Culver's. At the end of the day, the reality is that we are trying to use an efficient measure that we had already established with the flow of the car wash to try and accommodate for the heavy traffic at that intersection by removing the 2 entry points that used to be further east on that property when La Senorita existed. We are simply trying to continue to create efficiencies using that model that brings benefit and value to the customers and the community of those here. I understand that there are comments and concerns by local residents, primarily the condominium association directly behind the car wash, which, as communicated and seen in the aerial photos, is more than 400 yards away and significantly blocked even at this time of year when there is no foliage by the existing tree and the baselines that are there. That being said, the reality is that there are 30 units there and only 6 of them are registered as a primary resident exemption. That's 20%. We have in no way, in the 2.5 years that we've been open, with the 158,860 cars that have exited Kegomic and entered the highway, both via Kegomic and 119 and Zyger and 31, created any type of traffic impediment. Creating further efficiencies with the use of both of these lots, which will bring more jobs, increase tax benefits, and everything to that effect, is not something that we have done. And that's not what we're seeking to do here. We're simply seeking to provide a solution, provide convenience, and put people in the best opportunities to take advantage of the community that they deserve and the access that they deserve to have. Adam?
I mean, I don't have much more to say. I think there was a point that was made last week during the planning commission that I just want to reiterate, and that is our desire is to be a convenient, quick service drive-through coffee shop. And the majority of people that want a quick coffee, they're not going to wait longer than 5-10 minutes. And I know this because I own the Charlevoix location. Cars will pull in, and if they see a line, they're right back out. And you're gonna be able to see from 31 whether there's traffic, whether there's a backup, and ultimately at the end of the day, if we can't get traffic in and out of there in less than 10 minutes, it's not gonna work. People aren't gonna stop. And so I think it's, if it's working, if the traffic patterns are working and we're able to get people in through the drive-through and out successfully, then it's gonna be successful. But at the end of the day, if we are clogging up traffic, I don't think it's gonna work. So I just wanna reiterate that, you know, my background's in education. I love working with people, I love coffee, and we're very involved with the community in Charlevoix. We do a lot with the schools, sponsorships, activities, fundraisers, you name it. I say yes to pretty much everything I possibly can to support the community. And we want to bring that over here to Petoskey as well and keep that same investment in the community. So again, like Josh said, having an opportunity for additional jobs in the community, and you know, it provides another convenient opportunity that I think a lot of people would really value. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for either of us?
On average, what would your staffing situation be?
On average, so we probably have about 4 baristas, typically in the morning, and then 2 baristas in the afternoon. So in
2 shifts?
What's that?
2 shifts?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's worked really well for us in Charleroi. We'll have our first shift come in, anywhere from, 5:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. They'll stay till around lunchtime, noon to 1. Then the afternoon baristas come in, just typically 2 baristas in the afternoon, from, 12:30 to 1 o'clock, and then they stay and close, at 7 p.m. and they're out of there by 7:30 or 8 in the evening, so.
What's your average cars in Charlotte?
Average, I think we're just below 200. Well, it's hard to say on cars, but just because the store in Charlotte is set up different, we have a lot of drive-through. But in terms of transactions, I say on average we're between 150 and 200 transactions. So.
Whereabouts is that in Charlotte?
We are just north of 66. We're right between Culver's and McDonald's. If you know where the old Pigs Eating Ribs is, we're in that building there, next to the Verizon and the quilt shop. So.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, this time I'm gonna open the public hearing. Welcome everyone again this evening. The hearing rules and procedures are on the back here. Appreciate everyone who follow those rules of conduct tonight, please. Wait for the chair to acknowledge you to speak. Approach the podium, microphone. Offer comments, of course, again stating your name for the record if you would please. Direct comments strictly to the planning commission here, not to the public. We'll receive your comments. We're going to allow a 3-minute time. And if you have extra time, if we have later, we will allow extra 3 minutes for new information. So above all, please be considerate of the planning commission, the applicants, applicants, and your neighbors. At this time, we'll open public comment for anyone that'd like to speak on this case this evening.
Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I
Sorry.
note all of the written comments received in advance? If we can-
I'm sorry.
I'd like to just note the comments received in advance, if you
Yep.
could. Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Laura.
This is
I'm
just a
sorry.
quick summary. Oh, no problem, because there were quite a few.
Yes, there was.
Excuse me. We received 2 letters from the Tannery Creek Condominium Association. Bob and Lisa Jones, Bob Jones, Ron Wojan, Becky Furman, Rick Frohock, Melanie Murphy, Marlene Murphy, and John Ford. Just want to note they are all from the Tannery Creek Condominium Association. I identified themselves within that. And just in summary, there was expression of concerns regarding traffic on Kegomic and Zeiger Roads, exiting onto US 31 and M119, references to the impact from lighting and noise of this use. Also some comments about the need and viability of another coffee shop in the area and future plans for the property. Just to note, need and viability of the business is not something that really can be decided on by the planning commission, but there were quite a few of those that were referenced, so I just wanted to include that. We also received some comments in support, expressing general support for the coffee shop business and for the applicant Adam Boyce as a member of the community, and just for him in particular. Those were received from Sean Stringer, Stephanie Jones, Sean Cordes Osborne, and Aaron Weisberger, and that's the full summary. And just want to note that all of those comments were forwarded to the planning commission in advance, except the email from John Ford that was received after supplement 2 was already sent, and it is on your desk tonight. So that's the only one that you hadn't received before you arrived at the meeting tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
Yep.
And yes, we've all got copies, lots of paperwork, lots of emails on that, so your comments have been brought forward to us. Okay, at this time, anyone would like to speak on this case this evening? Yes, sir.
I'm Rick Frohock from the Tannery Creek Condo Association.
Okay.
If you'd like to come to the microphone, yeah.
Please, then we can get it for the record. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I guess just to start out, we respectfully request that the Emmet County Planning Commission deny the special use permit for the reasons that the Township Board unanimously agreed to yesterday. And that's mostly traffic, which we've already talked about, and I've got some things here, but we are 29 owners at the condo complex, and there's one private residence, which is the Bob Jones name that was up there. So essentially 30 people, and Zager Road is the only, well, our driveway ends at Zager Road. So the only way we can get out is either on Zager Road or Kigomik. And during the summer, you can't get out. You'll wait 3 traffic lights to turn right onto US 131. Turning left's almost impossible. Can be done in the winter, but in the 4 or 5 busy months, when most of our owners are there, by the way, yeah, we only have a few full-time residents, but in the summer months, we're practically full every week. So traffic is our concern. And talking to the township people and the fire chief, they say that on an average of 2 accidents per week are in the US 31 and M119 intersection there in that area. Not saying they're part of the car wash, I understand that. And the car wash traffic, we had some concerns with, but it seems to go better. But when you start talking about 300 cars a day, in addition to what's going to the car wash, then there's a problem. Also, there's a new drive-through business in the old Chase Bank coming, and that will have a ton of cars coming through. If it doubles, what Higby Coffee would be, I don't know, but it just adds to it. I mean, coming out of that bank, there's only 1 car length between that and the stop sign. So we can see everything backing up, which then means we're trying to get out on Zager and we can't go anywhere. So we understand that the property around that area was eventually going to be developed. The detail center didn't seem to cause a problem to us. We had no problem with that. That was going to be a few cars in and out every day, but a fast drive-through changes the whole concept of that. I think that's why this is a special use permit, because it changes exactly what was approved before. Also, there's a lot of walkers and bicyclists around there that come up. And there's no sidewalks on Zager or Kigomik.
You got 3 minutes, so the timer went off, so if you can wrap quickly.
So that's the last thing is the walkers and bicyclists. And you start putting all those cars with walkers and bicycles, you're gonna have a problem.
Thank you much.
You bet.
Anyone else on this case this evening like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Becky Furman, and I'm also a resident of Tannery Creek Condominiums, and I'm the secretary of our board. First, let me say that I have nothing against a good coffee shop and don't expect that it's gonna cause any concerns other than increased traffic. You're all aware of the traffic congestion at the intersection of 31 and 119. We also have addressed the difficulties encountered by anyone exiting Zager and Kigomik streets onto these routes. I recall these same concerns raised when the car wash was under consideration. We questioned then, and we still question today, when was the last traffic study done at this intersection? While your review of the project may be just how the project interacts on the site and with Kigomik, it greatly affects the surrounding area. And speaking about the accidents, I question the statistics quoted by the applicant. I say this because I've witnessed numerous accidents at and around this intersection as a result of the congestion. Last night at the township meeting, as Rick said, Fire Chief Welsheimer stated that they make at least 2 runs a week to this area. Add bikers coming and going to this mix, and I think you have a recipe for disaster. Another point that was made at the township meeting last night was that had this been the proposal from the start with the car wash and the drive-through coffee business, it most likely would not have been approved. So if this is the case, why would we be approving the coffee shop now? Please do not approve this request without completing a traffic study and understanding the impact of another 300 cars a day. Thank you for your consideration of these concerns expressed here tonight, as well as those submitted ahead of the meeting.
Thank you.
I'd like to address a couple different things. As far as the statistics, I can speak on both points. I'm a property owner next door.
Wait till all the public comment is completed though, if you would.
It is
Okay.
part of, after this, the
Rebuttal.
applicant has a response to.
Oh, okay.
You can do
So,
the
Sorry,
response.
that
Let's
was
keep it
all.
moving. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, wasn't on the agenda.
No, after we close the applicant, which you state you're part of the applicant.
I'm just
also
the property owner.
owner.
Yeah.
Right, well, you can respond at that time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else like to speak on this case, please? Anyone else like to speak on this case? Okay, at this time, applicant, would like to respond on any comments?
Thank you. My name is Joshua Runyon. I'm the property owner and in support of the applicant Adam Boyce. I would like to respond specifically to some of the comments that were made. The reference to the meeting last night, which we didn't have awareness of relative to the official documentation that we received in the mail, it's good to hear and understand what the concern is. The reality is, and I'll bring this back to the projection, you can't create things out of thin air. If this coffee shop would bring 300 plus more cars a day, I would be profitable and I wouldn't be selling personal assets to keep everything open and alive. 300 cars a day is not going to continue or grow out of nowhere. That's not a possibility. Number two, the statistics that I state are completely from the Sheboygan, Charlevoix, and Emmet County Central Dispatch. Anastasia Small, the administrative assistant, fulfilled my FOIA request, all of which I'm willing to provide. All of these things indicate very clearly that in 2024, there was one property damage incident reported on July 23rd, 2024 at 11:54 a.m. for Zyger and Kegomic. In 2025, there was one accident reported at 31 in Zyger on October 6th at 5:42 p.m. There was one property damage report related to my car wash on 3/24/2025. Somebody ran over our tire shine and said that it was our fault. Very nice officer. There were two property damage claims on US 31 in Zyger on June 13th of 2025 at 4:36, and one on July 17th of 2025 at 12:44. One property damage for Kegomic in 119, which is the Harbor Petoskey Road at 4:19 p.m. So ultimately, the access points of 31 in Zyger and Kegomic and Harbor and Petoskey, there's only one accident on each side in the last 2 years. In 2026, there was a property damage reported at 2:20 on February 24th of 2026 on that 119 in Kegomic, and that was a car that got hit up into my front yard by the big light pole. In that same time frame, 17 accidents, property damage, and personal injury things occurred at the Culvers. If the dictation of this zoning commission, which I don't think is to determine whether or not a traffic study needs to be taken care of when it's in DOT's purview, really the Culvers is the culprit. You know, that being said, we've had over 2 years of operation with more than 158,000 cars exiting that lot on Kegomic and Zyger, and now it's a stink. The reality is when I applied for the car wash and did all that, there were no negative public comments. There was feedback that essentially there was concerns by the condominium association after the fact, and so therefore I have no other reason to believe that this is something related to that. The point being, it's 356.7 yards from the end of my lot to the north bike trail. There's no access point. There are only two people who drive behind my car wash on their bikes, and they carry cans. It's these two homeless guys. I see them every other 3 days. And as far as any other traffic concerns and incidents, I think the reality of the simple fact, you can get it from the CCE dispatch central division, we have not caused an issue. A coffee shop is not magically gonna make another 30,000 plus people appear out of the blue. If it did, honestly, I would love to wash their cars.
Sir, you wanna respond to anything?
No thanks.
Okay, this time we'll bring it back to the board for, discussion on this case. Like to start it, or? Sure. I have a question. Did you not state that projected is 300 possibly cars to the car wash? No, I'm sorry, the coffee shop
Yeah, that was my projection, yes.
projections.
And I did 350 to mine and I averaged 187. So projections are exactly that.
Okay.
And you can't
But we
determine.
have to consider growth. I'm not gonna get an argument with it.
Sure, cool, use the real facts.
It's just, I get it, but we have future too, so. Okay, Kelly?
It was probably, look, berms are not a consideration as far as an issue. I know that's a little off.
Berms for where?
For
Well, the,
screening or something?
yeah, some sort of screening is not necessary.
From this to the
From this
residents?
to any surrounding,
Like the condos?
yeah,
No, I mean, it's like 600 plus feet
yeah.
away.
It doesn't seem like, that's usually a big deal with the drive-through,
Screen.
Yeah.
is screening. So that's not necessary.
Well, all of the surrounding property is, zoned the same, B2, so there is not a requirement to provide that screening. And the supplemental regulations require that the drive-through is not facing the residential area. It's on the east side of the building, which, faces the police station, the state, police. So, there is a substantial amount of vegetation in the area, but, because of the surrounding properties and how they're zoned, it's not a requirement, so, not required.
I guess
Something more to
I
add?
can start here and address some of Josh's comments and so forth. Totally relate, you run a good business there, you followed our original plan and the review. There was extensive review when we originally did this car wash at Bear Creek Township and also at this board level to make sure we got it right for traffic flow there. We cut off 2 curb cuts, I believe, on the 119, I believe it's 2.
One on 119 and one on 31.
So, and we did a lot of study how the flows, and we worked how we exit, come in, go out, and the low impact of the car detail slash, RV, was back, that was a low impact, wasn't gonna produce a lot of traffic in that back lot. So those are some concerns at the township level, that when we do this special use permit, a drive-through runs with the property, as we all know. So a special use permit stays with that property. They sell tomorrow what might be there, 300 cars now, maybe 150, but maybe it'd be 300 and 450. We don't know that, but we have to, as planners, look to that. And so there's deep concerns on those 2 intersections. I know, I trust CC's, your FOIA requests and everything else, but the traffic, we can go back to the map, Tammy, please, on the, overall, there's aerial, please, I'm sorry. The concerns at the township level, and it was spoken at somewhat at the planning commission, but MDOT's did not weigh in. I know Emmet County Road Commission, they weighed in on Kegomic Road for site distances and commercial driveway. The other 2, which is Zyger and Kegomic, to the intersection of 119 and 31, as we all travel those roadway, tremendous amount of stacking goes on 131 up and down that road. Yes, Culver's has got lots of traffic. There's tremendous amount of traffic goes left, north on 119, backs up in the morning, backs up mid-afternoon, all day. So trying to stack into the coffee shop slash on Zeiger or around the corner, I kind of planned it out the other day. I went around 119 and said, oh, I'm gonna get a cup of coffee, I'm gonna turn my blinker on. My blinker's already on left going north on 119. I'm gonna turn my blinker on, keep it on to turn on Kigoma to get my coffee. People are on your tail and everybody's coming around that corner headed towards Harbor Springs. We're asking for an accident to happen there. Bad. And people also, it was addressed last night, our supervisor addressed some concerns there of getting out there, trying to, you can turn right if you can get in, if I'm saying exiting Kigoma, going, I'm gonna call it southbound. Somebody will give you this good Samaritan wave and come on, you can get in, but you got traffic coming and it's just not a good deal. So those are concerns, and I could go on different traffic patterns here, but those are the concerns that the township had. And the big thing that I believe, if I took it, the flow of the traffic, there again, the review that we did on this case to let Josh do his car wash, followed the plans, did right landscape and everything. The traffic light or the light of the vehicles was addressed, did the spot on. But those were some concerns. The stacking lanes, those were addressed there. That was just something our planning commission was trying to work through, and staff here for what back out on Kigoma. But the traffic patterns and then also, I'm sorry, too, getting out, putting that much traffic, and I know we don't look at other business, and I'm not even looking at other business coming to town. But coming out, exiting the car wash to come out onto Zeiger, that was a big concern. Like the gentleman stated, you can go right if you can get a chance at the light there, because as soon as the light turns, traffic's piling around 119 headed southbound to Petoskey. Maybe you can get out, but chances of turning left to go north is little to none, maybe at 2 o'clock in the morning or something, but the traffic backs all the way in that stack lane. And yes, we have congestion there. We've done studies on that corridor study and trying to limit backyard alleyways. That would be a perfect example in our that corridor study, if that road, Kigoma Road, could go all the way across and tie in there somehow, but the creek is there and it's not, property's not available there. That's a perfect line for a backyard corridor. We tried to do it on the north side or the south side of the road, behind McDonald's and that, put some sort of but the wetlands, someday that will still go. I still believe that will get built there somehow, but yeah, we have traffic congestion, and the concern of the township board and one planning commissioner, the chair of the planning commissioner, was the 131 and M119 corridors, the possibilities of fatalities. We've had fatalities at that corner prior to 911. A gentleman was killed right there at that corner. Double bottom, concrete truck, double bottom, killed a man right there. So there are concerns, and there's more traffic, truck traffic up and down that corridor. And if they're headed southbound coming down that hill and somebody's turning around or waiting to try to turn into that coffee shop, Lord forbid, it'd be a bad accident. So that's what I have to say on it. I have deep concerns, a special use permit, that's my thought on it. So, that clears up some of the township opinion. Anyway, I'm good. And I'm totally for businesses, I'm not anti-business, but this original study was, or the back lot was not for a drive-in business. Anyway, I'm good. Thank you. Anybody else? Doug?
Yeah, the only thing, totally respect all of that, absolutely, I get it. It's hell to be successful, and Petoskey is incredibly busy. And coming down here from, Hicksville, where I'm at, and there's no traffic at all, coming down here even in the wintertime. It's amazing, usually the hospital, whatever, because we've talked about housing and how many people are heading north for a place to stay. There's a lot of traffic on that road. And we are all speculating as to the impact, but all these people traveling back and forth, the opportunity to, even though I know there's gonna be another coffee shop on that side of the road, the thing is that, I don't know how much more business or traffic that it's gonna create. Is it a problem? Yeah, I'm intimidated when I pull in. And, there's lines behind me and lines in front of me. And in the summertime, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And are we gonna add to that? I don't know. But if not this, what? You know what I mean? Just not develop any more businesses because we're too busy? There's too much traffic? And the only other thing is, the road commission, I wish would have weighed in on a lot of those type of points and issues. That they didn't feel that it was going to add that much, for whatever reason. And I totally respect everything that, you as well as the rest did as to the type of impact that this was going to have, and the problems and concerns they had with this, because I know they did a real good job in reconstructing it, and I do like the second plan far more than the first one, and apparently they do as well. But again, we are all trying to speculate, and we don't want to make a mistake.
That's right. Yep, thank you.
I'll weigh in here. You guys know me pretty well now, but I'll speak what I think. Before I was on this commission and I saw that car wash going in there, I really questioned who thought about that because of the traffic. I'm in that car wash 2-3 times a week and it's pretty smooth.
I'm a customer there.
I mean, it's I never thought that I would be a customer there because I didn't think I can get out down there by Harbor Bren and get out on 31, and I have yet to have a problem. And I'm there 3 times a week probably. So I think you, everybody here, I've been eating my words ever since I went in there that this was thought out and it seems to be working very well. Now, on the other side of that street, I was involved in an accident. Culvert traffic, but I also think it's because we have a 2-lane going down the 1 lane and everybody wants to be in front of the other person. So in summary, I don't know. I really honestly think I could go to the car wash and go get coffee and come out and not have any problem. But that's just my 2 cents. I understand where you're talking about. I don't turn right. I don't go down to M119 and try to take the quick left. I've been in the state police post. I was there since 2001. Yeah, there were some times it was kind of interesting turning into the state police post and coming out. But what Kelly said, if not this, what? Will the next thing be worse? That's all I got to say about that.
Mr. Chair, if I might. So it's important to look at the standards of the ordinance. This is a special land use listed with supplemental regulations, and it's laid out in the zoning evaluation. And just as I said at the Bear Creek Township Planning Commission meeting, it's the obligation of the Planning Commission to review those standards and determine if those standards are met based on the zoning ordinance standards and the materials that you have been provided.
Sounds good, yep. I'll say it.
Okay, well, Tammy took the words out of my mouth. I was just letting everyone speak. But I try to deal in facts, and I was gonna take us through the list, which I know is everyone's favorite thing that I do around here, but I was thinking that going through this list would be an appropriate exercise. I also look at something like this and just want to reiterate, sometimes we get tied up in small details, but without a drive-through element, this is use by right, we're not having this meeting at all. So this could be a restaurant, it could be a QSR restaurant, or a QSR restaurant's redundant, but it's like ATM machine, but it could be so many things with more traffic, and there'd be no hearing, there'd be no conversation, there'd be no chance for anything because it'd be allowed by right. So the drive-through element puts it under our purview. But I want to go through the items, but I also want to acknowledge that this area inspired the access management overlay district that we've really effectively been able to implement over the last several years. And the car wash was one of the first great tests of that, because La Senorita had 3 entrances between Kegomic and Zeiger, right? So there were 3 more just between those. And so with the tools leveraged to the access management overlay, we got those 3 down to 1. And I am not a car wash customer of any car wash. I don't have car washes as part of my life, but I have been amazed at how much more secure that intersection feels going from 3 to 1, right? Because it was really sketchy coming down 119 right at the intersection. So for me, not a user of the car wash, but I've been certainly grateful that its implementation really improved the safety of that intersection. You know, this comes up from time to time about projects and traffic. I'm thinking about a traffic study that folks wanted over in Resort Township, and everyone was really wrapped up about the traffic, but the traffic study revealed that the road was being underutilized, not overutilized. And 29,000 cars a day sounds like a lot, 300 sounds like a lot, kind of, but not compared to 29,000. If you can't put a drive-through on US 31 and M119, then where are you supposed to put a business like this? Division, Mitchell, Atkins, McDougal, River.
That'd be up to the planners to figure out, wouldn't it?
I understand, but traffic is a concern, especially when it dramatically changes the traffic where there's not a lot of traffic. But if you can't put a business that adds traffic where there's already the most traffic, sometimes I feel like we're missing the mark. If we're gonna go through this, you know, I think we should, because I think this checks a lot of the boxes. But we have the special land use review standards, compliance with the ordinance standards. Items were noted for further review. There's no issues. Site access and traffic, road commission review was received and had no concerns, everything was compliant. Alignment with the master plan principles, goals, and objectives. It does comply with the access management. It does put business where business belongs. Bear Creek Township Planning Commission did recommend approval. For site plan review standards, section 20.05, vehicular and pedestrian circulation, the site plan was updated to improve circulation, to exceed the standards required for stacking, and to eliminate that entrance at the request of the Planning Commission. Fire department reviewed it and had the standard recommendation of Knox box and 75,000 pounds, which has been met. Drainage stormwater guarantee of 3,000 was provided. Performance guarantee was not there, but is there now. For supplemental regulations, section 26.11, stacking spaces, review minimum stacking spaces provided, no staff comment regarding potential impact. That has been addressed with the ability to stack more vehicles without blocking it. Site design, review the compatibility among access lanes, parking areas, stacking lane. Consider the note. The applicant did consider the note, redrew the site plan, provided a new, in my opinion, better site plan. Vehicle access drives, review location of south entrance to the drive-through site for required 60-foot separation, shown less than 30 feet. That was addressed by getting rid of the south site. So for points 21.02 DGH, appears to meet the standards. Section 20.05 B, C, and G meets the standard. Section 26.11 A, C, and F meets the standard. As discussed, business viability, sustainability is not part of this conversation. I also don't drink coffee. Never have. People are surprised to learn that, but I don't participate in coffee or car washes.
You'll mature someday.
Good, good. Okay.
Can I just ask one question about the road agency review? Was MDOT requested to provide a review?
No.
And we received a comment from the Emmet County Road Commission.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Emmet County Road Commission is always asked to review the access site because, yeah, the access is on Kegomic. And then there was follow-up with the Road Commission about Kegomic and its connection onto those other state roads and what their thoughts would be about additional traffic or the potential for additional traffic or, and yeah, I think the response was at that rate, they did not believe that was going to provide an impact where they would be concerned to request or recommend a traffic study.
I mean, 300 cars is not a lot. I mean, if you were to compare that to the Walgreens across the street, which has 2 access points for one business, three access points, yeah, for one business. That would be a much higher use. I also just, to address the public comments, because I always, as you all know, really support, encourage, and appreciate public comments. I hear and understand the concerns from the Tannery Creek Condominium Association on this. And I empathize with it, but I'm not sure, when I reviewed this plan, don't feel like this changes that dynamic much. I totally agree with illegally going the opposite way in the Chase Bank drive-through to get to D&W. I used to do that all the time. I think that's the safest option. And you know, don't drink coffee, don't vacuum my car, don't do car washes, but I do have Harbor Ren, I did have Chase Bank. So I've definitely,
What you do.
yeah, so I've definitely interfaced with this intersection quite a bit, and I think the reverse through the drive-through over to D&W, not only is it safer, it's the most compelling case for why the access management overlay is such an important concept, because intuitively we understand that that's not the fastest, but it's the safest.
We can't use that.
Yeah.
I understand, but I'm saying we can't use it with or without this project. So I think that it's a tricky position with the Tannery Creek and the wetland back there, but I'm saying that I don't think that this project dramatically changes that dynamic.
Okay. Anybody else?
No.
We're at discussion here, man. Okay, anybody else got anything?
We'll have public comment in a minute. I mean, later, right?
Yeah.
During public comment, but
Yeah.
we're at discussion, we'll entertain a motion here. Anyone wants to make a motion? Or further discussion?
What was the township's, solution for the safety concerns? What did they wanna see? The board, not the planning commission.
The board was looking at a traffic study done by MDOT on that because of the work that was put in for that corridor study, which you mentioned. And I don't think that, I'm gonna speak out of turn here, I don't think anybody was against a new business trying to come into that area or what would maybe go in there, but the idea of a drive-in back there and the special use that would go with that. I read through everything that you just read through and I read through all this and I get it. But there was concerns on the traffic, that was the issue of those two intersections
So would you say
on
that
the highway.
their denial was more along the lines of, to my words, my paraphrasing,
Yep.
to stall for time until a traffic study was done, and then if it was reapplied,
I don't
look at it
know.
with fresh eyes?
I guess I can't
Speculate. It's completely
speculate that. I don't think the word stall, I don't think
My-
that
my
was, I
word
think,
just
I
laying
think the
on the table.
study possibly was a driver, in my mind. A study could warrant a study there because we've worked on this corridor study for multiple years prior to you coming on this planning commission and Bear Creek. So with that being said, that's probably, I don't think it was a stall tactic.
No,
But
we
a,
were by time,
a
whatever.
study,
Yeah.
but if this planning commission moves forward, well, it is what it is. I
Okay.
mean, I get it.
That's fair.
I'm just one opinion, and you guys know me, that's my opinion, so, is what it is.
I also don't like the idea of having B2 property that's not adding new accesses where we're limiting the property owner's ability to develop their property. I mean, it was gonna be an 8,000 plus square foot, commercial use. And now it's 800 square feet, which is a lot smaller, 10 times smaller. And I think, functionally from a safety standpoint, stacking uses on a single egress ingress is effective. I mean, we find throughout the county and in human behavior and traffic, like if you get more use in specific points, those points end up getting more investment, more improvement, more safe. But busier intersections get stoplights after they're busier. So stacking something on an existing what was 3 and is now 1, you have condo traffic, drive-through traffic from the former Chase Bank or whatever, that, like any kind of traffic from there, drive-through from car wash, drive-through from vacuums, drive-through from this proposal, across the street, drive-through from Walgreens. I'm sort of stuck why this drive-through becomes the problem. Because every other business adjacent to it is already a drive-through. Except the police station.
I guess to answer possibly that question, Brian, is those other uses you just quoted
Yeah.
are exiting on a major US highway or an M highway. This is on a Kegomic County road. I think that's possibly part of those other approvals. I don't know that for fact. And your statement earlier, 8,000 feet, 800 feet, I get that, but possibility of 300 cars, let's say 150 cars, where I don't know the planned how many cars the detail was gonna be, but probably 30 a day, maybe, I don't know if they can do 30, but let's say 15 a day and 150 cars. So those are two different dynamics. I mean, I'm not here to argue, I'm just.
It's
trying to
true, but it's
make
already
points,
zoned
so.
B2.
I gotcha.
And I'm a pretty big property rights guy. There's a ton of uses by right in B2 that would be higher than 300 cars a day. It may or may not involve a drive-through, but you could get well beyond 300 cars a day in B2 without this board getting involved.
Without requiring a special land use.
Yeah.
We would still do a site plan review.
That's correct.
And traffic would still be a consideration in that process. But I think to my point about road agency review, that we didn't ask for MDOT review because this property doesn't touch an MDOT road. But it sounds like the Bear Creek Township Board, and correct me if I'm wrong, but their denial was based on traffic entering an MDOT road, which is off-site, but we don't have that within our purview in this situation. I understand the flow, I understand where the traffic is going, but we're we're really limited in our scope that don't have the special use standard. G would mention additional road agency review, but staff has answered that question, that our scope is limited to these roads, and our road agency has given their feedback.
Okay. Motion, entertain a motion. No further discussion. Where do we wanna go with it, people?
Is the motion, the legal notice?
The draft, motion template is page 10 of the zoning evaluation. I just wanna note the date received, make sure that
Oh, there it is.
receipt date of the, site plan should be May 6th rather than April 16th, if we're ready to make that motion.
This is for 423.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm good.
all right.
Go ahead.
Make a motion to approve, case PSUP 26-003, Adam Boyce for Red Eye Brewing Company for a drive-through beverage and restaurant business at 2745 Kegomic Road, Section 34, Bear Creek Township, tax parcel 24-01-16-34-100-010, as shown on the site plan dated reviewed April the 16th, 2006.
May 6th.
20
And
Oops.
updated next
Yeah.
month.
Oops, wrong one.
That's all right.
May
6.
6th.
Sorry, hearing my
Six,
handwriting,
right.
6.
May 6th,
Laura?
okay. Dated May 6, 2026, because the standards of Article 11, 19, 20, 21, 22, and Section 26.11 have been met. It was approved by the Bear Creek Planning Commission. The findings as presented in the zoning evaluation dated 4/20/2026 are accepted as presented. Bear Creek Township, well, go there, or do I have
The
to?
fire department, number 3, you can.
Number 3, okay.
Skip to-
Resort Bear Creek Fire Department determined that the site access and driveway will need to be designed by an engineer to withstand at least 75,000 pounds. And the Emmet County Road Commission, did approve it.
conditions.
Motion.
Conditions of
Yep.
approval, please.
Oops.
Number 2,
3,000 is that
Oh.
drainage estimate?
A performance guarantee?
yes.
Yeah, that's on there.
Oh, for the drainage system, in the amount of 3,000? Okay, shall be required prior to the issuance of the zoning permit.
And then number 5 as well, please.
Alrighty. Any exterior lighting or signage to be reviewed by the zoning administrator.
Kelly, can I change the number 1 to zoning evaluation dated 4/23/26? Please?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Kelly, it's semantics, but for number 4, your verbiage was Emmet County Road Commission approved it, and they don't really approve things. Could we just say that they determined that they have no concerns, or that they
Okay,
determined it's
better,
compliant?
better verbiage.
Okay.
Complies
Better
with the
verbiage.
Permit, yep.
With those adjustments, I second that.
Second, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, discussion on a motion? Monica, roll call, please.
Benjamin?
Yes.
Gooding?
Yes.
Alexander?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
Evie?
Yeah.
Neal? Yes. Persick?
Yep.
Loffbaum?
Yes.
Yearman?
No. Okay, thank you. Guys. Okay. Pick up some paperwork here.
Yeah, everybody shuffle.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Can I ask a question? I
You
thought
can
we were
have
having,
public comment, ma'am, if you want to
Pardon?
state, you
Oh.
can address,
you'll have public comments still?
yes, yes, ma'am.
Oh,
That's,
Pretty soon.
coming up next, I don't think we have anything else to, say, that I'm aware of. Wasn't this morning. No, this morning, I think we're, okay, change. 1 second here. Okay, at this time, there's no new site plan reviews. We'll take public comment this time. Anyone like to speak on anything on their mind, public comment? Yes,
What's going
ma'am.
on with the noise?
Sorry?
There's a bunch of noise. Do you hear it? Sounds like a radio. Sounds like a radio is being broadcast.
Sometimes the Janet,
It does
Oh, yeah, somebody else.
In the hallway, maybe?
No, it's coming through the speakers above here.
You have access to
Can't
those
hear it.
Are you sure it's not phone?
Is someone playing music?
on the phone.
Is it still back there, Ally, Garrett, or Nate, can you hear?
Seems
Stop.
just,
Posts.
that's the first.
Okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, in my public comment, am I allowed to ask questions?
You can, we just can't answer.
We can't.
You can't answer?
No.
Oh.
No, just give your comments.
Okay.
We'll-
Okay, well, first of all, I guess I'd like to ask, I mean, does everybody see this corner or this intersection of 119 and 31 being probably the busiest, most congested place in the city of Petoskey or around the greater Petoskey area? I mean, I do. I think I know a lot of people that feel the same way. And I'm kind of surprised, it seems like your process only looks at the driveway that goes into the business. And I know you were talking about that, and they don't really go out to the other exit roads and where that traffic is going. I mean, Pagomic is a nothing, it is an alleyway. It's like a nothing street. And I just don't understand why the process doesn't go beyond that. And Brian, to your point about, yeah, driving through the coffee shop, well, that's gonna go away and that's gonna create even more backup for all of us. So, you know, and we're not trying to be anti-business. I love coffee, I've used the car wash a lot. I think that that's great, but there are other sites, and that site was originally approved for something that was much less active than a coffee shop will be. And I just don't understand why, if, and what we heard before, that probably would not have been approved as a drive-through coffee shop and a car wash, why it would be now, with the possibility of later on that being a much more active drive-through space. So, those are my public comments.
Thank you.
If you have any answers, I'd love to hear them.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi everyone, Ellis Bull. I'm live in Charlevoix County in Hayes Township. I'm not sure if I've ever appeared before you before. I'm here to talk about data centers and artificial intelligence. I don't know if that's ever come up on your agendas in the past, maybe you're planning in the future, but I'd like to say a few words about that. I'll try to stay within my 3 minutes. Holtec, you may know, is the owner of the expired nuclear plant that has highly radioactive waste there. That's one of our concerns around here. It should concern you as well. I'm an attorney. I represent the residents in Saline Township. We're trying to stop the data center there. That would be the biggest in the state at 1.4 gigawatts. Right now, my clients were featured in the current issue of Fortune magazine and in the Sunday article in the Detroit Free Press. You might have seen them quoted.
New York Times.
And right now, we're trying to stop that data center. We're losing in the courts right now, but we're in the Court of Appeals on that. The specific topic I want to discuss with you tonight is exclusionary zoning. There's a lot of talk I've seen in the media and on websites on exclusionary zoning, how it's just not possible supposedly to for a township to zone a data center out. And I'm here to disagree with that. I've written a paper about that. I'm going to publish it tomorrow, and I'll give you. This man looks like an attorney. He's got a suit, laptop,
Well dressed.
So I'm going to give a copy of this paper to your attorney, so you'll be able to see what I think. 19-page paper. There's a Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. It's got a section 125.3207 that says that there's the section that's cited traditionally as saying a township, and I'm only talking about townships here, not county. I realize you're not the township, you're the county, but what other form do I have? So, but in order to disapprove a data center in a township, there's a big exception to that, and that's if in order to ban disapprovals of data centers, the developer has to show a, quote, demonstrated need for that use in that township or the surrounding townships. That's written right into the statute. There's no hyperscale data center. The one I'm talking about is, biggest in the state. It's not going to serve just one township or one group of townships. It's going to serve the whole state, the whole country, probably the whole world. So that data center will not be protected by this section 3207 that I just mentioned. Also, in the state of Michigan, we have a type of zoning called Euclidean zoning. Perhaps you're familiar with that. And under Euclidean zoning, this is a decision of the Michigan Supreme Court. If a particular need is not expressly permitted, then it is automatically prohibited. So if you're in a township and you don't say anything at all about data centers, if you don't expressly permit, then they're automatically prohibited in your township. Is that my 3 minutes? Just one more
Yes,
moment,
please.
if I could. My wife, Luann Cosma, is right here. She's very active on the issue as well. I'm happy to talk with anybody about that. My email is on this piece of paper, who I should give it to, and the guy with the suit. And you're welcome to pass them out. It's just a draft, but I'm gonna publish the final version of it tomorrow, and you're welcome to email or talk to me after this meeting. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Karen Dodge. I'm gonna take you guys back a little bit. I'm gonna reference, back to the little Intertown project, with the apartment complex there. It was, approved by this planning commission December 4th, 2025. The planning commission approved the development based on the information presented at the time, which was the developer funding the project, and ultimately housing would be market rate. However, residents have now learned that discussions regarding a potential TIF, or a tax increment financing, and public reimbursement may have been occurring well before approvals were granted by both the township and the county. A housing TIF, and you probably know this as a brownfield TIF, can be used to fund this private development. The developer, with assistance from a brownfield consultant, have begun a preliminary discussion with the Bear Creek Township Board to seek reimbursement for eligible activities for over $15 million and a duration of 30 years. Quite simply, this means property taxes paid by the developer will be reimbursed, and bottom line, township and county services will be impacted. This list could include fire, EMS, library, sheriff, parks and recs, schools, road maintenance, and even administrative operations. While revenue is diverted back to the developer, the need for increased services will occur, as even this complex on Intertown could see an influx of 500 people. And this is concerning because I feel the planning decisions are not only about whether a project technically meets zoning standards. You might disagree with that, but commissioners and the public also need transparency regarding anticipated public financial involvement, infrastructure reimbursement, utility costs, and long-term impacts on township services. Residents often assume the planning process reflects the true scope and financing of a project. So if a significant subsidy discussions occurred separately and earlier, commissioners may feel that there's a lack of transparency, even if zoning standards were technically met. A TIF is not a traditional loan or a grant. A housing TIF does allow a developer to recover eligible costs using future property tax growth that would otherwise support local taxing jurisdictions and services. So if a major tax capture and reimbursement discussions were already underway months before the approval before both the planning commissions, that information should have been disclosed during the planning review process, so commissioners, county reviewers, and residents have the full picture before approvals are granted. Planning commissions should be concerned with TIFs, with the tax increment financing as it applies to housing, because even if they do not directly approve the financing, their land use decisions can create long-term financial and service impacts on the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Luann Cosma, Ellis's wife. I live in Hayes Township also, over in the next county. And I wasn't planning on speaking today, so I don't have any notes, but I just would add one more interesting tidbit. It's in the information that was given to this guy over here in his paper, but what a lot of people don't know about what happened in Saline Township is really quite shocking, and that's something that I found out, unfortunately, a little too late, after a lot of this went down. And that is, in the Saline Township's zoning ordinance, what the developers were asking for, which was a conditional rezone. And you're familiar with what that is? Do you have conditional rezoning here?
No.
We don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Well, they also didn't. They actually wrote it in their zoning ordinance, and it had been in there for years, that conditional rezoning is prohibited, and any application has to be returned, shall be returned to the applicant without review or consideration. And what the Carlisle-Wortman Township planner did was took a 12-year-old draft of a zoning ordinance, it was not the actual zoning ordinance, and reviewed that application and passed it off as the real zoning ordinance, and everybody went along with it. The attorney, the supervisor, they're being recalled right now. And the lawyers, and the developer's lawyer also knew about it because he was the one who tried to get conditional rezoning prohibited, removed from the zoning ordinance back when that draft was done. So it was really quite a con job. And the residents were fooled, and that's what ended up happening. Now, to their credit, the board did say no. Their planning commission said no, the board said no at the time, but for different reasons. And, but it should have been shut down on July 10th when that application came in, should have been returned to the data center developer. So do, watch for that kind of a situation where a developer comes in and says, I can do this, and I hope that the people in your township and all the townships in the county are more savvy about reading their zoning ordinances and really being careful about what's allowed and what's not allowed. Was that 3 minutes?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
No, you're good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you much. Anyone else this evening, public comment?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Commissioners, thank you. And I'd first like to start out, thank you for last month's meeting and allowing a little extra time on this topic of storage stuff. Monica, I'm gonna hand you another letter here for the record, please. Thank you. And I'll just take a minute to read this in. So again, from Paul and Annie Meridian, this is regarding the storage use amendments, the draft conversations, I guess. I'm here again tonight to continue sharing my comments and concerns regarding storage uses and the proposed amendments. First, I'm glad to see in this month's packet, the new draft suggests storage uses continue to remain in a B2 as an SUP and I1 as permitted use. This makes sense for several reasons, and I hope the PC agrees. Last month, I commented on some of the reasons for continuing to allow storage uses and storage facilities along the highways and trunk lines versus having it creep into the rural countryside by allowing it in the farm and forest zone. Although I know there's a provision for that in farm and forest, we're encouraging it, right, by limiting it in other areas. There are written public comments in this whole conversation over the last few months, which I have read, stating a concern about protecting the views in the commercial corridors and along the highways. But I have not seen any written comments about protecting our scenic rural countryside, so I'll ask the question again this month. Do you expand commercial and industrial areas along the main routes, or are you going to encourage it to further expand storage uses into our countryside on every 10-acre parcel? Another comment I heard at last month's meeting is the concern of large-scale buildings at the edge of the front yard setback, which in some zoning districts, the setback is only 30 feet. And in tonight's packet, under goals alignment, dated for discussion May 7th, 2026, item 4 suggests a possible 300-foot setback from a public road right-of-way. Just to put that into perspective, 300 feet, I know we all know this, but 300 feet is 100 yards, which is equal to a football field. A 300-foot setback could be considered exclusionary zoning. This would create nonconformities as well of the existing. Now, maybe he might disagree, but we talked a little bit about that last month too, when you guys talked about AI and exclusionary zoning. The gentleman who spoke a few minutes ago, he had some interesting comments on that. I would like to thank Tammy and Laura for their time and the follow-up conversation that I had with them after the April meeting. However, there's still so much more to discuss. As a stakeholder in this matter, it seems inequitable to do this without a dedicated work session or committee. This commission recommended to the county commissioners a pause on storage uses for 9 months after a small group of citizens voiced their concerns, and all I'm asking for is a forum for discussion and engagement to include all stakeholders. I appreciate your time and consideration regarding this very important matter. Sincerely, Paul and Amy Reagan. Thank you.
Anyone else on anything tonight, public comment? Okay, close the public comment session, other business, master plan updates.
Yes, so we're in the community conversation section of our master plan process, and I'm happy to report that we have met with North Central Michigan College class. It's a government class, and we had some great feedback from that group. Our consultant put together a PowerPoint presentation that's interactive, so we have Mentimeter and questions that we ask the group, and then they're able to respond right in real time, and we're able to see their responses on the screen and have discussions. So it's been really great. That was last week, and then this week we met with a Lansing school. We have Tyler Benson is the instructor, and he allowed us to come into his class in economics on Monday at 8 a.m. That was a bit challenging with that group, but we had some good discussion with them. And then we had seniors on Tuesday. Everyone else was being tested that day. It was, statewide test day, but seniors didn't have to participate in that. So we were able to talk with the seniors and do the same program. So it was interactive and similar questions to the questions that we asked through the survey. And we just asked for them to respond to do you think that the responses that we've received in the surveys are accurate? Do you think there are things that we're not considering? It was interesting that in Lansing, they're really concerned about potholes, and they would like to live in medium-sized parcels in single-family dwellings.
And have a job.
And have a job, yes.
That was a big topic of discussion. Yep.
So we went back today. Today was a group, it was a career path class, and interestingly, from my viewpoint, it doesn't seem like attendance is as important today in school as it was when I attended.
That's a fact.
It was just an interesting thing that I observed. When attendance was taken, there were several students that were gone, and then the students that were coming in and out.
Do they do any of that virtually?
No.
No.
It's not come up yet.
No, but the instructor was really passionate and really encouraged us to come. So today was the career path. So it really wasn't master plan related. It was more career opportunities in Emmet County, specifically with the county. We also brought the planning consultant with us, and he explained his role with the county and with other communities in the county and in the state. So it was, just an opportunity to do some outreach with students that we wouldn't normally interact with. Next week, we're meeting with a group that the chamber put together. It's, I think, the Leadership Little Traverse alum, and it'll be at the Carnegie Building on Monday at 4:30 till 6. And then we meet with Petoskey School students, 2 classes on Wednesday next week, and this will be the AP government classes. So with the instructor there. So we're looking forward to that. I have reached out to Pelston and McKinley and Maple River Township. John was the only one that responded there, so we're still gonna hope that we can get some discussions going there, but we're kind of hoping to wrap that up by the end of next week or the week after, so that's where we are. We don't have any additional chapters yet to share. We're still working on some details of 2 chapters that we have been given, and then we've asked for the next 2 chapters so that we can start reviewing them internally with staff. So it's been very eye-opening and interesting.
Yes,
I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
No, that was great. Just hoping for better attendance in Petoskey. We'll see. AP class, they better, right?
Yeah, that should be the cream of the crop.
You'd think.
I do have a question. Are you guys wanting and or needing any other participation from this body in any of those meetings? I saw the announcement the Petoskey Chamber put out.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to attend. It is interesting hearing the feedback. The plan is to compile all of the information that we're receiving and all the feedback that we're receiving so that we can share that with you once that we're completed with everything. But I mean, the college, the questions were a little different. It's interesting that some of the students, even though they're in Petoskey, going to school in Petoskey, didn't know where like the skyboxes are, and that's over the former J.C. Penney's on Mitchell and Howard. had no idea, and, you know, they're right there, within 2 miles probably of that location, but, yeah.
I would say
it's
that
interesting.
extends to adults as well.
True.
I think
True.
sometimes we're just thinking about this a lot more than other people. Cause I'm like, oh yeah, there's that development over there, like, well, I don't know.
Didn't know anything.
Yeah, right, like I've had people who are just noticing the block.
Right, well, even the
Which is-
question, how many have you students heard of zoning? 1 in the college, 2, I think, and one of them was, you know, their mom works in, you know, that sort of environment, so, yeah, it's something that age group wouldn't even think about.
And going there, it was great outreach, but Tammy also did a great job of explaining planning and zoning, you know, very, very concise, you know, general though, but, and what the master plan is, what the zoning ordinance is. So there was an education component about it, and also served as a good intro, provide a little context for what the questions were that we were gonna be asking. So it was a great experience, I think. Yeah, but just wanted to give you that update on what those efforts are, so. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah, we're good. Any other questions? Yep.
All right, we're gonna kind of, I guess, both talk about, definitions. What was in your first supplement was, we thought what we really needed was to maybe tap the brakes a little bit or take a step back, rather than putting draft language in front of the group and spending time kind of wordsmithing or challenging or trying to put together supplemental regulations, that maybe it would be a good idea to make sure that we're good with the definitions. See if the planning commission has concurrence on where the uses belong. Just kind of going back, Tammy provided all of that information about where the industrial zoning districts are, how many parcels are commercial. So just putting it in that context, we wanted to, after a lot of time talking about, you know, what is the next step? What do we really need? We decided, let's look at definitions. Let's look at what district some of these uses belong in. And to do that, we added district intent for B2, industrial, and then the farm and forest districts. Just to have that available to you in your review as you go through that. And then lastly, we wanna end by just making sure that there is an alignment of goals. It's something that I think I said it at the last meeting was, I put it as, what problem are we trying to solve? Like, what are we trying to accomplish? Because there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of back and forth and revisions, but just to finally get to the point where let's just get aligned on what the possible issues are, what the possible tools are to regulate that, and then talk about them as a goal. And then that will, hopefully that amount of feedback will allow Tammy and I to continue drafting the supplemental regulations that would go along with that, because we kind of felt like we were all over the place a little bit. So that's the big picture of what we're hoping to do. And I don't know if there's any questions, or if you're ready to just kind of start by looking at the definitions, and let's see how this goes. Does that sound like a plan?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, on the, and by the way, the kind of purple attached portion would have that in it, but,
That was a nice touch, by the way.
oh, okay, good.
I appreciate
You like
it,
purple?
Yeah.
I fumble and sort sometimes, this was like, oh, this is
This is that,
package,
okay.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Hate,
Whoever's idea it was, bravo.
hate dumping you with, like, too many things on a small desk.
That's good.
Okay, great. So under definitions, your sheet has all of the definitions that we looked at, but what is projected on the screen would just be the two that are proposed for update to talk tonight. One is we took commercial storage building. Previously, we reviewed, commercial storage facility, and proposing to maintain that definition, but add another. And this would be specifically for commercial storage that's permitted in farm forest, and it's permitted now in farm forest. But we were mentioning that is kind of looked at like a home occupation, because there is a residency requirement and other standards currently in the ordinance that goes along with that. It was done as a way that a former farm, that maybe there's a big barn and it doesn't have use. This is a way to allow that property owner to store boats and RVs and cars, not RVs, but RVs. Yeah, just so we're clear.
Used to have meat,
Yeah.
now it just has RVs.
Exactly, exactly.
No cheese.
Yeah. So that was what that was intended for. So, but there was some confusion on what that meant. So the proposal is to create a new definition for what that is. And then on the next page where we look at the land use matrix, even change where that appears in the land use matrix, so that it's very, very clear that this is a residential use. It's a residential use first and foremost, because you have to have your home there first. And that it is something accessory to your residential. So in the land use matrix on the next page, it shows residential uses, and currently in our ordinance, we have home occupations, home-based business. We're proposing home-based commercial storage building, so that it's very clear that this is home-based, and and then it would continue with its own supplemental regulations that would go along with it. So that's the idea there.
Question just for my understanding, so this is, you mentioned barn as an example.
Yeah.
So storing boats, watercraft, that the multiples of the boats, like the person, they can store 15 boats from all kinds of different people and.
Right,
Okay, all right,
yep,
cool.
that would be the commercial aspect of it, because
Right.
otherwise it's just an accessory structure.
Well, that's what I was, okay,
Yes,
I just wanted to make sure I
correct.
was understanding.
So it would
Okay.
be, for a commercial endeavor, not like self-storage where every person has their own door and lock to get into a structure. That's, we're talking self-storage then. This is one entrance, or two, whatever, controlled by the property owner, but somebody can put their boat in there for the
I just wanna make sure I
season.
was
Yep.
understanding.
The farmers I know that do this have like an old, let's say like horse barn, and they don't have horses in there anymore, but you can turn really well with like a tractor or center, you can put a hitch on your bucket, and then they can really, it's almost like loading a ferry where they don't let you park, like they really cram them
They
in.
stack
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Yeah, they just stack them in. I mean,
Yeah,
they can
yeah.
fit a lot in there, but you basically drop it off, and then they put it in, and then in the spring,
Puzzle piece it
they
in or
take it
whatever.
out. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's not, you don't have access to it
Yeah.
throughout the season.
Okay.
Is there a minimum number?
Of?
Maximum, not a minimum.
Maximum size.
You mean
Before
before
you
it,
have to-
before it's above accessory? Yeah.
Oh.
For storage?
I think the concept is if you're doing it as a business,
Like, what if you just say you're doing it for your friends? How
Yeah.
do we,
we don't.
does that matter, I guess, would be my question. It's-
That's just a little spending money.
Right, I'm not gonna report it as a commercial business, I would just
Says the
take it,
farmer.
Yeah.
like, does that matter?
It's a side hustle.
Right, but does that matter to us? I guess, we have to determine it's commercial?
Is it relevant?
It is in the ordinance already, just to be clear. It is, this use, the definition doesn't appear
Of commercial
in the,
storage.
but in, FF1 and FF2, commercial storage is a permitted use, and when you go to the supplemental regulations, it already lays this out as,
But that's what I'm saying, is I think we've had uses come before us before that have said, well, I'm not commercial, I'm just maybe storing a few extra things for myself or others. It's not or family, right, it's not commercial.
well, and that very well could be. I mean, a lot of people do that. My home used to be everybody's dumping grounds, because I had a really big, basement, but when people put out, I guess that's kind of like, it's not a short-term rental, but then you see it on Airbnb, or somebody has, they are advertising for sale, for rent, that they can do this. Or neighbors find out about it because they see these things getting dropped off. So, it's currently in the ordinance. Is there anything else to add to that? Well, okay. But again, it's for discussion. I think if anything, our thought was, if it's currently allowed in the ordinance and that's something that we are regulating and considering and offering as another potential home occupation way to make money, it would be helpful to have at least a definition that really made it clear that this is something that is accessory to a residence.
And the current reference of that in the ordinance we're talking about is 26.30, right?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Which is B2I, FF1, FF2.
26
And
point.
we're trying to kind of untangle those
Exactly.
to have an FF1, FF2 use,
Yeah.
and then a B2 and an I. Got it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, if you go to the land use matrix page,
Yeah.
storage buildings, including mini storage and commercial warehousing, was one very generic category, so we're trying to break that out. And, recognizing what the original intent was, when, part of that original intent. Next is, what was recommended by, the consultant and their planning consultant in their review was expanded storage building. And as Tammy and I talked through this, kind of came to something just like Jennifer did, like, do we really need that? And, for this, this definition was proposed for a structure that is primarily to shelter, but it also could include multiple stories or bathroom facilities or other amenities. And I believe that the thinking was that this was what they would call like toy boxes or.
This is like what's over at Hearthside Grove or over on the way to Charlottesville Bay Shore or whatever.
Right. So, kind of getting into why is it really necessary? And Tammy ended up speaking with our building official on this. Do you want to talk to that real quick?
The building official indicated that there's like really 3 levels for, one is residential accessory building, which is truly just residential, and then there's S1 storage and S2 storage, and S1 is like the highest level of storage, and anything that's like a unknown items being stored is S1. It's the higher level, and so self-storage units would be S1. There's no difference between that and a building that has a mezzanine, for instance, as long as the mezzanine is kept under a certain size. If it can have a bathroom, it's still an S1 use under the building code. So we thought that really this expanded storage building, which our consultant even had some concerns that it wasn't really quite accurate, and so we thought it would probably be best just to remove it altogether.
Yeah, because it's either, in the end, it's either gonna be commercial storage or it's going to be residential. It's a commercial accessory building or it's residential.
Is it?
And that's,
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about like, it would be built as commercial. I think, as I recall this conversation, it was more like, where do you put the very large storage unit that's used for personal use? But what we're saying, what I'm hearing is that the enterprise is commercial, right? So if you're like, no, this is my storage unit with my boat and my motorcycle and my bathroom, that feels personal, like private, but it's that the overarching entity that constructed all those units is a commercial use.
right,
That's
right.
the distinction.
So
Okay.
it's either an accessory, it's an accessory building that's accessory to a residence, or it is a commercial building that has to meet those standards. It's a commercial building used for storage, and it has to meet those standards. The fact that it has a bathroom in it, it might even have pickleball courts in it. It
Right.
could have, any number of things. What they do, it's a commercial building, and we kind of treat it as such, and the building department certainly would. So our thought is remove that so that we're not making it more complicated when we're trying to identify what something is based on a definition that is really crossing over into other definitions that already tell us what we need.
Okay, let me just take this one step further.
Yeah.
Let's just plants, okay, so they have a bathroom, and they're storing things, and then they put in their couch, and they're putting in a TV, and they're hanging out there, and they're fixing their bike or whatever. And then they put in a kitchenette. Like, where do we draw, like, when does this become like a motel room?
Yeah, and that, if it is, if it provides complete independent living quarters, then yeah, it crosses a line, but an accessory structure.
Bedroom?
Well, it would have.
Usually it needs sorry.
Yeah, the definition for dwelling unit.
Yeah, there is a definition in the ordinance for dwelling unit,
Yeah, usually it needs like an oven and a sink.
or dwelling,
Yeah.
dwelling. But yeah, it would need to have a bathroom, cooking facilities, so.
Sanitary facilities.
Sanitary
and
facilities, yeah.
And building code would dictate that, but we, our zone, and so I'll look into this more. So
Well,
zoning
a
code would
dwelling-
follow, it comes first, but essentially whatever building says, our zoning would sort of mimic that.
I
Like if
find-
you're.
Not necessarily.
Oh.
Yeah, I find that to be the tricky part with this.
Well, and I kind of thought that's why I like led down this road. It's like, how closely are we trying to? get
Yeah,
the
but I also
uses
feel like we
together?
zone plenty of things without considering what like the building department would say. Like that's
Absolutely.
not our purview.
No.
Use is not building.
And we're not necessarily saying we're not gonna zone that, we were just saying, does it really need another definition? And just to clarify, dwelling does have a definition in the zoning ordinance, and it is a building or portion thereof providing complete independent living facilities for an individual or one family, including provisions for eating, sleeping, cooking, and sanitation. And then dwellings are divided into the following classes, and then it goes to, single, two family, and multiple. So that's exactly that creep that sort of happens, if it's, so is your concern from a zoning standpoint or regulation standpoint, like not allowing what would essentially become, like you said, a hotel in an area that was approved as
Building
storage,
department
or?
would get involved. If
Yeah.
they're doing something like that, then they're under violation.
Mhm.
Right, but that's, once it gets to the building department, it's past us. And so if we're saying, well, we've understand storage uses, but we know that, again, like we may or may not be there yet, I don't know. Are the uses going to become quasi-living, commercial motel facilities that?
Well,
And how do we,
Yeah,
and
so-
where do we fit that in with our ordinance?
Well, so if they did that, then that would be a change of use, and they'd have to come back through whatever process the ordinance requires for change of use. So if it was storage and they wanted to make it into a hotel room, then the ordinance might or might not allow for that in that zoning district, and then we'd go through the proper process. It's challenging because a lot of times those things happen and we don't even know.
Yeah.
And then, then there's a violation that has to be addressed if it's discovered.
But the expanded storage building definition was meant to more accurately try to encompass the sort of toy box concept.
That's what we thought.
Right, that we're saying
That's a storage building.
that's a storage building,
Commercial storage building.
okay?
Or it's an accessory building to a residential use.
So then okay. I feel like there was something more than self-storage that's not a warehouse that we were trying to pin down.
So I think that would
that the-
be through supplemental regulations.
Okay?
So as we work through this next exercise, we're hoping that we can get some direction from the planning commission.
Okay.
And then develop those and have legal review, and then bring those back to you either next month or the month after that.
So that's the tools for regulation of the use.
Yes.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On the next page is the zoning districts. And we try to kind of cross out and keep there just for reference, what's happening. what's interesting is, what we're showing you is really what is currently allowed. But we are just clarifying the definitions of the things and then moving that commercial storage that's allowed in farm and forest, like I said, into the residential uses section of the land use matrix. But otherwise, self-storage facilities, or what had been referred to as mini storage, was and is still showing here as a special land use in B2, and permitted in I, and with supplemental regulations for both. Supplemental regulations as yet to be ironed out, yes. And commercial storage facility, previously we would have commercial storage building, but we're changing that to a facility. It could be a group of buildings, and commercial warehousing. Keeping those separate, keeping it within the storage and warehousing category of the land use matrix, but maintaining that same, again, special land use with supplemental regulations in B2, and permitted with subject to special supplemental regulations in I. So it's we're putting this here because we kind of started down a path of maybe going only allowed in industrial zoning for the self-storage facilities. And yeah, we just, heard enough complaints, and then I think once Tammy really went in and dug in through GIS to look at how much industrial zoning we have and where does this really belong and does it make sense, we kind of got to that point where maybe we need to look at the impact and how we would use the supplemental regulations to address what the concerns really are. Is it necessarily the zoning district that we're concerned about, or is it how it impacts a corridor or adjacent residential uses? So we're kind of putting it back with the definitions, kind of where it is now, and then maybe we can segue into this discussion of aligning the priorities and the goals to see where we go from here with supplemental regulations to make it make sense and make it achieve what it is you've set out to do. Do you want to move on to the goals alignment and then see where we end up?
I
Okay.
just had a quick question on the commercial storage facility definition. It was presented on 4.9, a structure or a group of structures of varying sizes that serves a principal commercial use and which are designed primarily to shelter and organize vehicles, equipment, supplies, and other personal property, with corresponding services that may include truck or storage container rental. I'm stuck on the last part. Like, why would that not be outdoor storage or some other business use? Like,
I'm kinda stuck at the same time.
like, I mean, with all due respect, it looks like U-Haul wrote it,
Oh.
right? Like, what other storage use would say, yeah, storage, and then corresponding services that are truck and storage container rental?
Well, truck rental is in a lot of the current self-storage facilities. You can drop
get it.
off and pick up trucks.
But I think I would rather that be another use.
Which we do have.
I think the part that bothers me or
We have
stumbles me
vehicle
up is the
leasing.
Container rental.
Yeah.
Cause a container rental, I understand you're renting trailers or trucks like U-Haul or Hertz or I understand that. But when we break it down to container, that takes me mind to these units that can be, I'm afraid it's gonna turn that into a freight terminal instead of a storage unit.
Are you thinking that belongs then maybe in,
Like, just eliminate that last phrase?
I think that belongs
commercial
in-
warehousing? Is
Yeah, 'cause that's
that would
more
be a
coming
commercial
and going.
warehousing?
Yeah.
Right.
And I also get that that's somewhat semantics on the land use matrix, cause they're both subject to the same use districts. But it feels like the supplemental regulations for commercial warehousing throughout this whole conversation, there's been, I feel like, a pretty shared understanding that warehousing is different than storage. The main premise being that warehousing has a lot more coming and going, whereas storage is sort of parked and then revisited.
I think that seems like a really good point to me.
I'm thinking of like,
I don't know about the truck rental element. How would you, because I, just continuing along this line, totally makes sense to consider storage container rental or storage of storage containers belonging in commercial warehousing. What is the Planning Commission's pleasure with truck and trailer rental that is often associated with?
That doesn't bother me, it's the big trucks bringing, we're turning a piece of property into a freight terminal to me. When you're moving shipping containers, it implies in my mind that you're gonna allow a 40-foot shipping container to come in, get filled and move out.
Yep.
Or even some of these,
Got small pods around.
small pods around, I mean.
for me though, the truck rental, I'm not sure that it needs to be in there. Like, it's a vehicle.
Put it somewhere else.
Well, I think it's just if there's parking for a truck would be parked there.
But, and you know, that is in this alignment of goals, because you also look at, you can have vehicle rental like Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and it just looks like the same Jeep that I drive around, it just looks like a Jeep. Typically, with these storage facilities and concerns that we hear, and address, those big box vans have advertisement on them. And they are put out at the front as display, and it kind of functions as a billboard on the property. So I'm offering that is a consideration. That's something that, like I said, in our office, we certainly heard a lot of that, and that could be a consideration. So is it just parking?
I hear that,
So-
but that doesn't, I think, like, Chevy advertises on every Chevy that's driven. Toyota has their identification, every Toyota, right? DHL, UPS, like, all of those have markings. I don't think it's our job to regulate what is printed or screen printed or wrapped, on a vehicle. If I see Bear River Electric drive down, it's an advertisement. McGregor Plumbing is pretty well wrapped, but I'm not, to me, that's a vehicle that's way out of our purview. I think if a truck can fit in the parking lot, then that's the property owner's right to do that. I just don't think it's appropriate to put it in a definition for commercial storage facility, because I'm like, what's that got to do with anything?
And so in our land use matrix, we do have automobile equipment rental and leasing as a special use in B2 and industrial with no supplemental regulations.
It feels like that's a different use.
And is that the use that this, with corresponding services that may include truck or storage container rental? Well, storage container rental is different.
Totally different. I would put a period after other personal property, and then whether or not truck or storage container rental falls somewhere else is fine, but I don't think those are germane to commercial storage facility.
So
I'm one person, I just don't see that.
Hearing you.
So do you think that storage container rental is a different land use that we don't have identified in our zoning ordinance?
Correct.
Storage container,
That seems like a version of outdoor storage or warehousing.
commercial warehousing is
I'm
what we're talking
thinking
about
of like
up in here,
Warehousing aspect.
just
I'm thinking of like
commercial warehousing.
a port terminal, they pick those up with the, and it's outdoor storage.
I mean, if we're not careful, we could turn it into a UPS terminal.
If you drive down the interstate, you see these warehouses all over. They'll have like 85 bays for semis to load and unload. And
Logistics.
I don't think that's what we're talking about when we say commercial storage. I think that's warehousing. Like, that's a much more dynamic use.
Right.
I would like to
Logistics.
revisit the idea of vehicles, these type of vehicles for display or rent on the side of the road, because it's not about advertising, it's not on the side of the road, and yet every vehicle has their name on it, but you don't drive by at 55 miles an hour and read the Ford emblem on a vehicle. But you can drive by at 55 miles an hour and see a very large, U-Haul, that type of truck that has a very significant, it can have a significant impact. And that was why it's here. That might not be a priority, it might not be a concern for the planning commission, but I just wanted to clarify, Brian,
Yeah.
what you detailed is not what I'm saying.
I hear that, I just don't think this board has any jurisdiction over things with wheels.
I actually think it gets more, into screening, how we require screening for outdoors, outdoor storage, but storage uses. When we don't require it for a normal commercial business, like you said with Bear River Electric, they can have their van parked towards the side of, facing their road. And it's not gonna, I have no issue with that, but that if you have a storage vehicle in a storage use that has to be screened and they have their vans with their symbols on it, I don't have a problem with that either, but we've said that those uses need to have screening. So to me, it's more,
That would be the supplemental regulations, right?
Right.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to get to with this next
Yeah.
exercise, is trying to figure out if, not necessarily these specific supplemental regulations, but what your thoughts are on these things so that we can develop the supplemental regulations and then get them to legal for review.
Yeah, so why don't we, I think we are heading in a really good direction with the conversation and these ideas that are coming up, and it's just, let's,
and I
take
think
this.
we're like trying to, and to your point about where are we trying to, what's the problem, what's the issue? I think we're just trying to lay the groundwork on a
Mhm.
really solid form so that the devil is in the details, that I think
Yeah.
will identify those issues.
And if we're saying what's the problem,
Like
what's the
in the
goals?
next-
Yeah, if we say what's
Yeah.
the issues or concerns, my recollection of how we got here is that we had an inadequate definition section on this, and more things were being proposed that we didn't have an answer for. So to me, I don't read through this and think like, okay, the problem we're solving is U-Haul. To me, I read through the problem we're solving is somebody's proposing something for which we don't know what bucket it falls under. And we're just trying to make sure that things have a more clear bucket so that anybody, any citizen or business knows what they're looking at.
But that's I appreciate black and white, that's wonderful, but been around long enough, there's just a whole bunch of gray.
Yeah.
And U-Haul is one thing, or Bob's Electric, or Tim's Plumbing.
Yeah.
But it's like Mackinac, we got somebody who has a nice transport vehicle that is not really, I'm sorry, it's not. He just moves it
Yeah.
to places that advertises it's a billboard. It
Yeah.
is a rolling billboard. And how do you, okay, so where you drawing?
I don't think we touch it. There's moving
There
billboards in
was a-
cities where they just drive around the whole time. It's their job.
Because they can.
But we're talking, yes, I think back to what Jennifer
We're back.
said, but we're talking about a storage use, that is an element of it potentially. So, if it's okay, why don't,
Let's move on to that.
let's move on to the first goal alignment.
Absolutely.
And the first one, what we did was we listed out what we think we're hearing are the possible concerns. There could be more, or you could say that's not a concern at all. But, so the impact of large-scale, multi-level storage and warehouse facilities. So, we identified some potential tools for regulation there. Again, it's always, limit the zoning district, restrict height and or number of floors, increase minimum setback from public road right-of-way, require extensive screening from public road and residential uses or districts, require access and maneuvering lanes that accommodate semis and truck deliveries, and require loading docks to be completely screened by on-site fencing, landscape, or buildings. Those are ways that if there is a concern about the impact of these larger scale, bigger two-story, multi-story, buildings, is there a concern? And if so, what is it that we think is the negative impact of that, and how do we address it?
One of the concerns that I hear is that when we have a facility that you just described and it has multiple loading docks, that's gonna encourage more truck traffic, more frequency of truck noise, it's gonna be more of a freight terminal. I've said it a couple times, it's gonna be more of a freight terminal, you know, so how do you limit the amount of loading docks, you know what I mean? I mean, in reality, somebody could buy the UPS store down there and say this is a storage unit, not the US, I mean, where the UPS is
On Fochman?
on Fochman.
Yep.
And that could be they could tell us that's a storage unit or a storage business and run storage pods out of there 24/7. That's a lot different than having a guy that's got, a big warehouse and individual people
even
come
have
in
to-
and store stuff inside. I think there's.
I mean, you don't even have to, you don't have to wander far, you could walk across the street from UPS on Fochman and it's self-storage.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you can paint the
So-
picture.
I don't
without-
care if they put that in an enclosed building, there's still not multiple, there's not multiple semi-trucks coming in there.
Oh, you can tell if you go down there, like if you're going to Tri Rivers or whatever,
Well, that's
you're
odd,
gonna,
that's
you're gonna
industrial.
pass a ton of UPS trucks and there's nothing at the self-storage.
Right. So, that's what I
Yeah.
hear, and it's not, to me, it's relevant as to, somebody says, it's just a small amount of people complaining, well, what's small and how is that relative?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a way to make most people happy. You're not gonna make everybody happy, but I think that's something that we can probably limit through, your.
Just so I understand
So-
clearly, if a project, like I know there's a moratorium right now, but if a project came, like pre that or after it, if a project came to us that was a 3-story multi-level unit, it would be reviewed under 26-.30, right?
Yes.
So currently it would fall under there, which already has a 300-foot setback.
No,
Oh, sorry. All proposed buildings shall be site planned to be perpendicular to the road or be positioned to the rear of other approved non-storage or non-warehouse buildings, or be set back at least 300 feet.
Right.
Okay, so that is different.
yes,
Yeah, cause you could be a lot closer by changing the orientation.
right.
Okay.
One thing to consider about that, and we've seen this, perpendicular is relative to the size of the building. So if you have a building that's 200 feet long by 196, and the 196
Yeah,
is
it's basically a square.
basically, but it would still be perpendicular, it would just, that's a way to get around it.
Okay, and then it says intense all-season landscape screening to effectively shield storage buildings from bordering.
Let's not get into the supplemental regulations
That's
if we can. If we can, rather than do that, let's try to work on the goal alignment and decide that first, because, is that okay?
Yeah, well,
Because
That's what our plan was.
yeah, it's kind of our plan, cause if unless you had a specific question about something that is gonna
No.
help you understand the.
Go ahead.
Okay. Going back to what Brett said, and actually what Brian said too, I think what we're hearing then is regulating, the storage pods, and those kind of units separately, having separate supplemental regulations for those types of uses and treating them more like freight terminals or warehousing type of a use. So I think that's why we're trying to say, like, let's talk this through so that then we know how to develop some supplemental regulations, because now I'm thinking, okay, you guys wanna see supplemental regulations for warehousing that would include that type of, storage pods type of a use, and with that, and, a mini storage having a different type of, supplemental regulation. Is that,
Yeah.
are we going in the right direction there?
Possibly.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, the bottom line is, if I'm working midnights and I've gotta sleep during the day, I'd much rather sleep next to a mini storage unit than a freight terminal, to be honest with you.
Okay. As far as those uses then that would have that, last month, Brian raised the issue of those deliveries, and that's why we have in here require access and maneuvering lanes that accommodate semis and truck deliveries. That would obviously be something that we would fold into freight terminal, that kind of a warehousing.
Certain districts.
And then, what about loading docks, and screening of loading docks? Is that something, again, in supplemental regulations? Should we want to see those really more screened than just your roll-up door at a mini storage?
We have to
Self-storage.
screen it effectively in our ordinance, because if we don't, then something that looks like a warehouse and quacks like a warehouse is gonna be presented as just a sequence of loading docks.
Right.
So to me, the loading docks parameters needs to be just as tight as the warehousing, otherwise functionally, they're gonna be indistinguishable.
Okay. Anything else on this number one before we move on? Any other comments on, is it safe, am I hearing that just going by the 30-foot maximum is appropriate to apply to this use? There isn't a single story or multi-story, limit the height?
That's where I'm stuck.
That's
Because
right.
warehousing is a different use. And I think we've talked and agreed that there's more comings and goings, that's a different use. But this .1 says impact of large-scale, multi-level storage and warehouse facilities. And I don't think those two are the same thing.
Well, and they don't have to be.
No, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, I think that's where, if our quest is more clear guidance and definitions, I think that's where we're gonna find ourselves stuck between, is that somebody's gonna say, I'm building a self-storage facility, a building or group of buildings that consists of several individual storage units intended for personal storage, each with a separate door and lock, which can be leased on an individual basis. I'm building a self-storage facility, therefore I'm subject to the self-storage facility regulations. And then, by the way, it's 3 stories high. And then I think this body would think, well, hang on now, that's more like the commercial storage facility, not the self-storage. The self-storage,
Just read the self-storage.
the self-storage facility definition here does not have
Oh,
a height,
gotcha, under many
a
stories.
height limit.
No, it wouldn't, that would be in the supplemental regulations or the, schedule regulations.
Yeah,
But you'd have to look at the matrix of where it's gonna be at,
but,
I one or.
But my
Right.
point is that if this is all coming down to what the supplemental regulations say, then it's gonna be really important that it's clear which regulations apply to self-storage facility, which is the second line on this matrix, versus commercial storage facility versus commercial warehousing. If they all have the same supplemental regulations,
well,
then it doesn't matter, but I think the way it's being presented, as I understand, is that self-storage facility is a lighter use than commercial storage facility.
okay, so the idea that they have individual locks and you have your own access.
Yep.
I think that's clear between self-storage facility and commercial storage facility. That is the primary distinction, I would say, between those two. And then what we were getting at with that question of the height and the number of floors is if you are a self-storage facility where everybody who rents or leases space there has their own key and their own access point, does it matter if it's 1 story or 2? Does it matter if it's 1 story or 3, as long as it's under the 30-foot height maximum? Because it still functions the same way. It's the place where you might have to go in the building and upstairs to get to your locker number, B27, but it's still self-storage rather than a commercial storage facility that is a large building with more of a single access used for a different purpose or a warehousing operation.
The definition as written for commercial storage facility is a structure or group of structures of varying sizes that serves a principal commercial use and which are designed primarily to shelter and organize vehicles, equipment, supplies, and other personal property. Period. Self-storage facility is a building or group of buildings that consists of several individual storage units intended for personal storage, each with a separate door and lock, and which can be leased on an individual basis. I think anything that's a self-storage facility could also be under the commercial store, like those are one and the same. I don't think anybody would say commercial storage facility can clearly not have separate doors and locks. I think it totally could.
Then it would no longer fit the definition of commercial storage facility.
What are we saying is different about commercial? The principal.
It doesn't have that phrase that says each with a separate door and lock. And maybe this is something that we should work
But it
with
doesn't
legal
say that
counsel.
it couldn't.
Well,
Yeah.
so knowing that concern, we can take that to legal and work through that and maybe come up with a more solid definition for each.
I guess I'm stuck on why the separate door and lock is such a big deal.
Because that's what a self-storage facility is. That's why it's called self-storage, because the individual consumer who leases from it has access
And only access.
and only access to that. They don't need to go to the owner of the facility or something, that is, I think that is the very definition of what self-storage is.
So-
It gives you that ability. But I agree with you, right now, I think I'm personally really interested in taking a step back and making sure that we know why we're making this definition, and maybe it was because we were heading towards the home-based commercial storage. But I think I think that's great feedback, and we'll look at that some more unless anybody has anything else they wanna add to that. Cause we could probably sit here and go round and round on that one for a while, so.
Yeah.
But that's a good point, Brian, but I think the self-storage and the, individual
Separate.
basis is the key there. Do we need commercial storage facility? Let's take a look at that, make sure we know what we meant for that.
I actually think that sounds a lot like warehouse.
I agree. To me, it feels like there's a continuum of self-storage facility, commercial storage facility, and warehouse. But what I'm saying is, what's the everything that's a self-storage facility could be a commercial storage facility, but the use changes when it's a warehouse that's coming and going.
Well, I'm also thinking it maybe is intended to be accessory. Is it, if it's a
We're kinda
commercial
spinning
use,
wheels
it's
here. Why
not,
don't
right?
we,
Yeah.
like you said, let's get some more info.
Yep, but
definition on
that's-
that. Because we could talk about this for 3 hours.
But are we spinning wheels? Because to
Well, I
me,
don't
this is
know.
our job to solve this.
I get it.
And every
but
time
let's
it comes
move-
up, we say, okay, well,
Okay.
staff will take it back and they'll talk about it and then we'll talk about it. We have a deadline on this moratorium, and if we do not solve it, it goes right back to how it was. I wasn't even a fan of the moratorium, but if we're gonna commit to it, we cannot just punt and punt and punt. That's our job.
I got you.
So if you guys don't like talking definitions, then this isn't a good conversation to have on this board. I'm here to help the citizens understand when they open the ordinance, what they're looking at. And every time we get into the weeds, it's like, well, we're spinning our wheels. Or I'm getting cut off when we're talking. Somebody else can talk.
Mr. Chairman, I'd love a turn. I know it's not appropriate.
No, it isn't. We're, okay.
why community.
Is there
engagement is
anything
important.
else that you would like to say? We are by no means trying to, cut off conversation.
Let's recess for 5. The member's gone right now. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
But where
Sure.
are we gonna go after the recess?
So everyone's here to hear the conversation, maybe?
Well, the staff says they wanna take it back and work on it, based on what they've heard. That's what I gathered.
But we still have 3 more items that we'd like to talk through.
Yep.
And really, I think that in the end is what, the only reason why we just, if we have time to come back to that, I think that would be just fine. But if, whatever you would like, but we have other goals. We've not made it past the first one.
Okay.
What would you like to do? Can we move on?
Let's wait till Mr. Bates gets back in the room, okay? Then we'll maybe he's not coming back. Maybe we're trying to tackle too many bullet points in one conversation. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
I guess it just kind of goes back to my earlier point that we just want a really solid foundation to work from. That if we can agree on these, on the definitions, on basic principles to begin with, I know, I appreciate Brian's point. It's tedious, it's boring. Not everyone's a planning nerd and you can't look at zoning ordinances forever, but if we get a really solid foundation on what each use is and how we're gonna differentiate, because I think that's where we're at in the end of this, is we couldn't differentiate the use, and then we were getting uses that we didn't know what to do with. And so if we can just get a clear understanding of which one's which, how are we going to define those? We have to set a definition, and then we set the standards for those, because we all know and understand this is this, this is this, this is this. We could explore this more if we wanted to do pictures. I'd love to talk to the public about, or you know, service providers about what they're seeing out there. But I think images would be really helpful if we knew like different examples of Tammy's going there.
Yeah.
So I think that's fair. Like we're gonna sort of figure this out maybe as we go, but we will get the definitions set. I think we just maybe need a little bit more information to get this ball rolling, to be able to come to a consensus.
Well said, and Brian, I didn't mean to cut you off, and I didn't mean
I didn't feel like you did.
that we're spinning. I guess my point was, kind of Jennifer just said, maybe we need some more information to get it. So, if you felt we were cutting you off and not trying to do it.
We tend to say we need some more information.
Okay, well then we'll
Who's
say.
gonna get it? Who's getting the more information? We convene once a month.
Okay.
So just so you're aware, our goal was to try to tackle these possible issues and concerns that we think that we understand, and then come back next month and actually have legal review what we come up with based on our discussion tonight, and bring something back to you that hopefully you could say yes, no to specific items. I mean, we have the outline drafted. We also want to reach out to the public that has voiced a concern and say, you know, this is what we're suggesting. Do you have comments as well? So we did talk about this in our planning meeting that Laura and I had, and that's our plan. So, you know, we're trying to beat that deadline of September 1st. It's challenging. It's not an easy thing, and sometimes, you know, you look at something and say, you know what it is when you see it. A warehouse, for instance. Self-storage, maybe it's a warehouse, maybe it's self-storage, I don't know. But I think we have some great feedback. specifically for commercial storage facility, and then is commercial storage facility different than warehouse, or is it the same? And certainly, once we have legal review it, we might have some additional direction, so that's the plan.
And I would just go on the record to say that I would support joining a subcommittee to work on exclusively storage, the topic of storage. And meet with members of the public. I don't have any problem having discussions of that type. I think they're offering, it'd be worth it to take them up on that. Just saying.
Anybody else
And
wanna do
getting,
that? Brian? Subcommittee? Just a thought? Good thought? Is that something?
I was just gonna offer that, that was something that Tammy and I were talking about, and, getting feedback from the planning commission before bringing in the public and having a subcommittee seemed like a good idea. And that was part of why we came up with this approach, to zero in on some things, as Jennifer said, get that foundation and kind of really make sure we know what the goals and priorities are and where this might go. Then solicit the input and feedback.
Can we go through point number 2 then, for the potential tools? Because the concern was described as proliferation of storage uses, and the tools are limit zoning district. And I just want to understand, for limit zoning district, are we saying limit more than what the land use matrix as printed says, or are we saying that is that tool in action?
Well, we're wondering if you would agree with what is being
With that,
proposed.
yeah,
That-
okay.
That special use in B2 and industrial of permitted use, but both with supplemental regulations.
And then restrict footprint, promote building up rather than spreading out. And that's for, I guess, any of the storage uses.
Right, warehousing,
Warehousing, commercial, self-storage could all be going
Yeah.
up instead of out.
That came as a thought, that if what we're worried about is having too many of them, maybe we're making better use of land by going up rather
Yeah,
than,
it's like
rather
housing.
than out.
Yep.
Right, so that's what that means. And these are not suggestions, these are just
Potential
conversation
tools,
starters.
yeah,
Mhm.
Well, and I was thinking about the third bullet point, says to require active commercial use fronting public road with storage buildings fully behind other businesses. And I wondered if we ever define active commercial use. I think that's a case where when we write that, many of us have a sense of what we're trying to say. But I think a business would be well within their parameters to say that offering storage to the public is an active commercial use. And I think what we're saying with this is more like what we are picturing is brick and mortar, but I don't know if we get to be the judge and jury of active commercial use without defining it.
Well, I'll bring you to, the second page with the intents of the different districts.
Right.
And something, again, just to have in mind, B2, specifically references so as to serve passerby traffic. I think one of the things that we say about storage use is you don't have that intensity of cars coming and going and coming and going. So an active commercial use, might make sense when you think of it as passerby traffic. You have that kind of storefront, that business that is there on 31 or, whatever, and you go into that retail store or that service, and where you see a person, or where you get a product, not where you go and access your storage unit. So I think that's a great suggestion, that we should define that or make it very clear what is meant by that. But I think in putting together this information, that's the kind of thing we had in mind.
I think it makes sense, and it takes me back to the, not at this body, but at the City of Petoskey Planning Commission meeting 3 months ago. There was a proposal for U-Haul in the old Kmart Plaza, and they you know, argue it's sunken down, it's screened from the road because it's all lower than grade. And they made a very, I thought, compelling point that they sell boxes, offer box recycling, drop off in a retail store in the front, and have storage to the side. And that would definitely be an active, you know, passerby traffic, right? If you're just going to snag some boxes, that's passerby traffic.
Retail.
Right, that's retail. But that's, you know, retail plus. I'm really curious about the height though, like where,
The 30,
yeah, with this board, how do we feel about the height? Not spreading out makes sense, but then height is oftentimes cited as a deterrent or something that,
not complimentary.
yeah, it's not. People aren't usually
Areas.
jumping for joy.
Absolutely.
And really, if you haven't taken a drive on US 31 in a while, north in Bear Creek Township, there's some really varying examples of height. And the most recent hard side storage units are at 30 feet, probably a little above 30 feet because they're sloped, so the midpoint is is at 30 feet and it's a little bit higher. Countrywide Sports is about 20 feet.
Yeah.
And it's more of a facade. Olson's probably more around 26.
Yeah.
And set way
quite a
back.
ways back.
Yeah, and Countywide Sports is set back quite a ways too. It's, it's got the, items for sale in the front.
Well, and next to Olson's and Goldmine is outdoor storage of the Amish barns and
Yes.
sheds, which is like basically right up to the right of way.
To the setback.
To the setback, I mean, and then has multiple buildings, and none of them are probably taller than 10 feet.
Right.
But they show more prominently than Olson's. Those Hearthside buildings are really interesting because they're tall, but they're not multi-story.
Right.
Right, like they're tall, they meet the single story, but they are very, very tall.
Is there thoughts then to taller buildings being subject to a greater setback from the road? Is that an interest in, and didn't John say something about having an overlay or a setback? That was a suggestion of yours at one point, wasn't it, John?
Well, an overlay district that could be applied on certain high traffic roads, that you could do any kind of, you could even ban certain uses. It'd be wide open, it's just a tool. Is like if Bear Creek wanted to protect their walk-in business north of town, we could identify this overlay district over top of the zoning that's already there, and then we could put the supplemental regulations in that overlay.
Sure.
That way Brutus doesn't have to conform to what Bear Creek wants.
And those buildings were approved under 26.30.
Yes.
And so they're not set back 300 feet because they are perpendicular to the road?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and one was existing, so the one in the middle was
The
an
one in the middle is
existing.
that old,
Yeah,
resale.
it was the car
Used car
dealership.
dealer.
So with this as a goal alignment item, proliferation of storage uses, is that something that after you've had more discussions and we've seen the GIS maps with where they are located, we've seen the Excel spreadsheet with a number of uses we've had, and we've heard different opinions on what the need really is based on population that varies greatly through the seasons. Is proliferation of storage uses a concern, or is it just something that, as long as we are looking at that appropriately with supplemental regulations and we apply, screening or setbacks or whatever it is that you end up deciding, is it just, it's fine?
What's the alternative to that?
Well, I think limit zoning district here could mean that we limit it further.
Yeah.
Or it'd be more restrictive with it so that we are, you know, kind of halting, storage uses. Yeah.
I mean,
So-
that, right, that feels, I would expect in my lifetime, I would expect 2 to 3 times more storage units in Emmet County than we have right now. So to me, I don't think this is something that, I know, Dave McBride sent a letter, we have, 2.3 square feet per every man, woman, and child in Emmet County. I don't think that that's stopping. So I think it's pretty important that we get this right. I think it's absolutely a property owner's right to develop the property how they want, but I think we can shape how that looks. I'm wondering, the overlay district that John mentioned is very interesting. I don't know how that rolls out. I'm also wondering, have we ever set setbacks to heights? Like 100 foot from the right away for 10 foot, 200 foot for 20 foot, 300 foot for 30? Like, have we ever tethered the setback to the height?
We haven't yet. That was one of the
we?
suggestions in our ordinance,
Yeah.
and we certainly could ask that when we draft our supplemental regulations, if that's something that you think would be appropriate.
Yes, it's been addressed in residential.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done it through, in the PUD.
Yeah.
When
That feels like it might be, I don't think a one size fits, because I mean, those Hearthside units, when they came before this board as proposed, looked pretty fine. When they're built, they feel a little out of character.
It might be the curve of the road too.
Yeah, I mean, you're
They're
looking right at
there,
them.
yeah.
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 My folks visit once a year and they commented on them.
That's helpful.
All right, ready to, anything else on this one?
One, just for limit zoning district, because it's in number 1 and number 2. And so I wrote this right away when I saw that was just the right use in the right zone, in the right area. Like, Bear Creek Township, I think last meeting said they were gonna have a special meeting, so I'm curious to see if that's still gonna happen, but I think we're finding just that the properties that are available now just probably aren't in the right locations. We're just bumping up against too many conflicts. And so really finding, if we have to look outside of where they're at now to find pockets where, I don't think it's a limit zoning issue, I think it's the right property issue.
Well, and that's a really good point as we go through our master plan.
Yeah.
And Bear Creek Township is having a joint planning commission board meeting on May 13th, next week,
Okay.
at 6 p.m.
Okay,
So,
I plan on going.
yeah, so,
'Cause
that's gotta be, it's gotta be discussed, and it's even a goal of our current master plan to review those things, and we just didn't do it, but we need to.
I think that kind of gets at the crux of this issue, because I'll be honest, if the industrial zones as presented were not as limited as they are, right? That, I stated that with a lot of negatives, and I apologize. Let me start differently. I think that commercial warehousing should be industrial only. But I also don't think we have enough industrial to make that. But I worry that if we say it's B2 special use and I permitted, that I think we're gonna run into an industrial bottleneck for many things, not just commercial warehousing. And the risk I see is if, because right now we feel squeezed on industrial, that we allow commercial warehousing in B2. We might wake up one day and think, gosh, this feels out of place now that we have all this industrial. So I don't know, it feels a little chicken and the egg, but I do feel like commercial warehousing to me feels like it's industrial. We also know factually we are extremely limited on industrial, but that might not always be the case.
All right, great. Anything else on the second one before we move on?
Yeah, just a little bit on the limit zoning district. talking about, our shortage of industrial.
Yeah.
And the map that came up was rather shocking, but if you go through and in depth and find out who owns the big parcels, we're talking large parcels that are owned by up to multi-billion-dollar corporations who are not interested in our master plan. So it's worse than what the map was that we were looking at.
You're saying because the map gives the illusion that there's still undeveloped industrial?
There's not, yes, and there's not nearly the availability as what even the map said.
Right. But still, that is an industrial, a lack of industrial problem, not a commercial warehousing needs to
No,
fit.
what I'm saying is it's, the lack of industrial is worse than the information that we actually got.
Based on ownership and willingness to develop it.
Right.
An out-of-state multi-billion-dollar corporation that owns a whole bunch of that industrial land is not interested in.
To the north,
No,
all over.
no, just, if you look at the map, there was a big chunk of it there, and it's basically owned by one corporation.
So it feels to me, if we're talking about limit zoning district, it feels to me like the commercial warehousing bucket, I think should probably be industrial only. And self-storage, or whatever comes with that definition, could be special land use B2, permitted industrial, with the understanding that this is an industrial problem, not a warehousing problem.
Okay,
On the,
anything else?
I'm with you.
Do you have, oh, you already have. So storage uses taking up commercial property is really kind of a similar
Yeah.
discussion item that what we just went through. We even listed same potential tools as number 2, but I guess, is that still a concern? Because I think in the very beginning, that was discussed and presented as a concern that, but then we find that, like we just talked about, we have the concern of using up industrial property.
Yep.
So, anything to add to that?
That feels like of the impact of large-scale proliferation of storage and negative impact of community character, part of me feels like number 3 is the least pernicious of them. Because I feel like that starts to get into telling people what they can do. Like if somebody can make the math work on commercial property for self-storage, kind of feels like that's their prerogative. And if we conclude that we need more B2, then that's a different problem.
Any thoughts on, kind of getting back to John with the overlay and thinking about what the intent of B2 is with the passerby traffic? Is the idea that these storage uses are potentially taking up our commercial corridors and changing that, and I think in the last one, we talk about retail office service businesses, that would be, I guess, the active business. So is that a concern? I totally understand what Brian's point is, that if you can make it work here, and that's what the market wants, by all means, but should that be a consideration, that corridor is fronted by or overwhelmed by these storage uses rather than ones that serve the community or visitors? What are your thoughts there?
Kind of my thought process on that was like we have on the scenic resource, roads, rivers, etc., where it doesn't follow property lines or districts. It follows the road. And then the overlay is just next to the road.
Yeah.
And it just follows the road wherever you are. And that would take care of a lot of these problems with the townships that are losing good walk-through business area to mini storage. And they could just, if you have a big parcel here, you have this road, it's got the setback, move them back out of the setback area.
How do we, and this could be a later part, but how do we implement that? Do we just say there's an overlay district on US 31 from this address to this address, 100 feet?
Usually a
out?
map too.
Yeah?
Yep, you adopt specific guidelines for an overlay district and.
Just like the rivers and the tunnel trees.
And we have that authority.
They already
Check
do
with
it.
check with our legal counsel right there.
The
Yeah.
master plan
Yeah.
Done.
on US 131 is a farm overlay district, which we just approved a residential development in, so
It's an ordinance.
maybe it doesn't have much of a foothold.
Yeah. You said it's what?
It's an ordinance amendment. So it's same process.
New district.
A new district?
So you have your underlying zoning, so it would maintain that. And then you have additional standards for that overlay that says, okay, you have to follow this and this now together.
So it's limited to the, whatever, area you create it for.
From a staff perspective, does that feel cleaner to implement? Or does that feel more challenging?
I think it's equal, because whether it's an overlay or, like scenic resource, you just have additional standards that we have to enforce.
I think if the goal is very focused on a particular area, then that makes the most sense. If the goal is kind of in general protecting view sheds or impact on the community throughout the county, then we do it by the varying setbacks that you referenced. Or by saying you have to have a defined active commercial use such as retail, office, or service businesses, at a certain height, and then the storage uses, or storage uses only in combination with a mixed use development. That, different ways that it
I feel like
works.
the active commercial use and the mixed use become harder to prescribe or explain, whereas like an overlay or specific zoning feels a lot cleaner. And I feel like when you get down to the negative impact on community character, I think a lot of us are picturing how it looks. We're not out there with a tape measure, but we just kind of intuitively get that some things too tall or too close.
Well, to the 131 north corridor there, I believe there's a 100-foot setback on a lot of that, except for where the new Hearthside Grove, that was an I-1 district.
in 31?
Or 31,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Is some of those places, like Tractor Supply and camping, RV and that, there's a overlay district, I don't know if they call it overlay district, there's a setbacks through there that we.
No, it's the road right of way is so much bigger.
It's wider
It's
there,
about
but wasn't there a
150
certain
feet.
setback too that we were, remember the short fencing and all that had to be done there, wasn't there some
No.
other issues there too?
No,
That-
it has to do strictly with
Wasn't there a
the
PUD
extra.
and part of that up there, what was that called in that,
No.
south of the bike rings in there?
Oh, Jordana Estates.
Yes.
But those were already developed, so, everything that was developed there, like from Barney Road south to Dave Cream, that was all
I
part
guess
of a
that's where
PUD, but
Okay.
they didn't have to have extra setbacks because there was already established
Well,
uses and
I guess
buildings there.
part of why I think
Thanks,
the
Steve.
overlay district feels really like a potentially strong tool is when we look at the land use maps, our B2s and our Is tend to follow trunk lines and main roads. I mean, it would be a pretty clean way.
Isn't that essentially what Alanson did with their corridor plan? They had, I just recall the one zoning case, but they had commercial uses on the frontage, and they were really adamant about not allowing anything but commercial uses on the frontage.
That's in Alanson, you said?
Mhm.
Well, in Littlefield Township.
Yeah.
Sure. which you can see when you go through.
Yeah.
I don't understand everything about the overlay district, but as it's being described and as it sounds like it could be implemented as an ordinance, that feels like a potentially strong tool in the tool belt.
But just one other comment on that, we are the Emmet County Planning Commission.
Yep.
And sometimes we're looking at just Bear Creek, maybe McKinley doesn't care, and they want these, they don't care if they're close to the road. They don't need the extra regulations. But they could be put, if Bear Creek wants it, we can put it on US 31 North. If Littlefield doesn't want it on N68, we don't have to put it there. See, it's flexible for the whole county. That's another thing I thought of.
Do you have something?
So you would pick corridor by
Well,
corridor?
what the local people want.
Yeah.
It's not exactly arbitrary.
It's not arbitrary, no.
Yeah, very specific.
That.
Mm-hmm, yeah, targeted is a good way to put it, yep.
So like when you have a B2 district covers, you have a B2 district that may cover multiple townships over a wide swath of area. But if you just wanna do an overlay in the downtown of one, that's where the overlay would do it, cause you're targeting a specific location or an area. You would do an overlay for all of it, cause otherwise what's the point of the B2 then? Like, if it's everywhere, or if you want the general standard, the overlay is more targeted approach.
I think that's a pretty compelling tool, especially when we're talking about that number 4.
Yeah, so Tammy, did you wanna talk about this, or can we go on to 4, or what do you?
We can go on to 4. I do have photographs that were provided, of different storage facilities in northern Michigan, and then one is actually in Florida that, actually it was provided by, they were provided by David McBride. This one is in Traverse City, single story. It does have kind of a second story type, addition on the front there. All of the storage is required to be under a roof, and so you can see there is some open storage on the second building there, but it's all from the front. When we get to that, it's all, oops, from, this is the front, so it all looks like it's enclosed.
And it looks more like a store from the front than a storage, or at least a warehouse.
This is another one. This is a couple, at least 2 stories. It might be 3 stories. This was in Traverse City. This is the night view. The concern there was the bright lights.
Does Traverse City not have a full cutoff requirement like we do?
This is Blair Township actually,
Oh, okay.
and I don't know. It sounded to me, I talked about this at the PrAC meeting on Friday, and this is the planners group that gets together, the regional planners group, and they said this is Blair Township, and they have very minimal standards. This is that same CubeSmart, the one on the left is the one where the boats are indoors, but
Yeah, you see
open
that a
on the
lot
sides.
along the freeways with the Cube Smarts and the U-Hauls where like the outdoor lighting meets all requirements, but then they'll have a bunch of windows where they never turn the lights off. Right.
Mhm.
So it's, you know, it's a savvy workaround.
That's this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the
And
one that
yeah,
has all
this
the
is
lights.
this is the one with the lights inside.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
They're all over Florida.
This one I think is in Florida with the.
I actually think
maybe
Florida's
that's,
a really
oops.
appropriate comparison though, because the dynamics that Dave McBride referenced of a lot of seasonal people with a lot of stuff to store is very similar. Like a lot of the people who need storage in Florida are the same people who need storage in northern Michigan.
This is the one in Florida.
Yep. Yep.
This one is really close to the road. Our ordinance wouldn't allow probably that close, and then really close to a body of water. this one's back in Traverse
That's not
City.
Florida. Yeah.
I mean, these are just, you know, showing examples of what's out there. This one is actually in Resort Township. I'm sorry, no, this is the one on M68. M68, self-storage. Northland self-storage.
Oh, yeah. On the south side as you're going.
This one is in Keystone Park.
It's industrial right there.
It's industrial zoning, yep. This one is in Keystone Park as well, and so is this one. And then this was Fochman Industrial Park.
Across from UPS.
Yep. These are probably closer to UPS. And then this
I know I'm not
is,
supposed to talk about the Dave McBride on
at the back.
M68 was B2 zoning.
no, it isn't.
It's a PUD with
It's a
B2.
PUD with farm forest.
Rezoned in 2019.
This is, Fochman Industrial Park at the end.
Didn't have to go far to find a lot of examples.
Internet is a wonderful thing. So,
Well, we can't regulate windows and lights inside windows.
well, that's a good question.
I think we can.
You think
Yeah,
so?
oh yeah, yep, oh.
I'm still getting
The guy in
used to
the
you being
suit.
here, right? Like, this is- yeah, the guy in the suit, yeah.
You regulate, the impact of lighting in zoning. You can do it through like photometric,
Like
regulation.
decibels, but for light.
Yeah, there's ways to measure, it's like lumens, or there's other ways of measuring light, and, I mean, it's just the way you craft it, it can address lighting, whether it's external or internal, if the internal lighting impacts externally, I mean, that can be controlled.
Okay. I mean.
It would require you to be able to measure it,
Sure.
and, oftentimes what you can then do is you could have, as part of the development, the site plan could include a photometric plan that would show what kind of lighting is being proposed, and then they can show you what how far out the light would reach.
Yep.
For lack of a better term.
Which we require. We have outdoor
Yeah, you
lighting
might, you
standards.
probably already require some of that
Yeah.
already.
Of where,
Well,
yeah,
it,
what the loop.
But we require it for outdoor
Outdoor
lighting.
lighting, yeah, it
You're
regulates
talking about
Yes.
light that shows up outside from the
Yeah, I
inside.
don't see why that can't be addressed, it's just the way you kind of word the regulation.
An overlay district gives us a lot of flexibility with that too, because you could have design guidelines that are associated with the overlay district, and then maybe, you know, we address the glass, you know, see-through glass and lighting and all that through the overlay district.
I'm feeling like, given all the disparate objectives of this, the overlay district might offer a lot of consistency. I feel like is the real win with the overlay district.
If you go back to one of your points from earlier, you can the discussion about commercial uses, that can be defined too.
What the uses are.
What a commercial use is.
Okay.
All right, number 4, and it is after 10 o'clock, so, to the negative impact on community character, this is just, we've kind of danced around this one already, lots of comments that I think get to the heart of this, but look at that, established design guidelines, just said that. For an area or corridor, not for the use, we wanted to just kind of put that in there, that this thought wouldn't be just this particular use has a specific set of design guidelines that might be getting beyond what we want, but yes, an overlay district corridor, something like that. Do not permit storage of vehicles with business signage. We kind of started talking about that, graphics or marketing messages visible from public roads. So you can store your rental trucks, but they would be screened or in the back behind a fence or behind the building, and that's where that inventory storage would be rather than kind of right up at the front, because then that is less about parking for customers as it is for that storage. Just again, a potential tool. increased setback from, the public road right of way. We just put 300 feet in there, just, you know, for a 30-foot tall building, maybe that would make sense, or, just considering that. And again, require storage used to be fully behind retail, office, service, businesses that front the road. And lastly, require extensive screening of storage buildings, vehicles, equipment. And I wrote in there minimum 80% opacity. That is another way to, right now, 4 to 6 feet of some shrubs in the front or evergreens is not providing screening.
Take a drive to Pelston, right across from the airport, there's some storage buildings that were approved within the last 5 years. And those trees meet the ordinance standards for screening, and they don't do a very good job. Right on US 31 across 1301, I think.
How would you measure the opacity?
By taking like pictures, and then determining how much is blotted out, and usually a planning consultant that I've dealt with, that's how it's been done before. They have those measuring
I was
tools.
just curious, like the
There's a measure-
photometrics.
Mhm.
Okay.
Elevation,
Yeah.
plotting.
I mean, I'm all for vegetative screening, but it feels like when we get to buildings that are taller than 10 feet, it starts to feel inadequate. Either the requirement would be very, very large trees, which would be tricky. But whereas I feel like something like a defined setback and an overlay or requiring a different facade is a little bit easier.
Using the building as
Right.
as storage, enclosed fenced area, yeah. Or not not allowing it in that front setback area,
I think,
even,
yeah.
you know, things like that.
All roads lead back to that front setback being a little more clearly defined.
And I think too, it varies if you're on US 31, it's a lot different than if you're on Fodgman Industrial Park.
For sure.
And same with Keystone. I mean, Keystone,
Yep.
once you're off M68, you can't see those. Or when you're on M68, you can't see those until you actually go down that road, and it's industrially zoned, so
And again, the overlay would help that.
yes, yeah.
Because the deeper you get into any of those,
So I'm hearing an overlay seems to be the tool that people would like us to explore.
I wonder, it's not the only tool, not the only direction though, I don't think, right? Because we have the entire county to be thinking about, and some of these setbacks,
Yep.
and find that out, but then, zero in on some areas that kind of keep coming up, what concern 131, 31.
yeah, 31, 131, 119, 68,
Yeah.
I mean, just kind of those.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anything else?
So we look at with the master plan, then also that corridor.
Well, I think the specific zoning districts and,
Yeah.
and, master plan areas for industrial uses and higher density residential and all of those different things that we've talked about and looked at. And our master plan suggests that we tackle those and just tend to get pushed to the side.
How do we get more industrial land?
We master plan for it, and then we pursue rezoning.
Okay. I think that's gotta stay pretty front of mind as we go through the process.
In certain areas.
We can use PUD as a tool
Oh,
as
for
well.
sure,
Yeah.
I have some concerns on that.
Okay, we have, one site plan that was reviewed and approved administratively. It's a storage equipment shed that's over 200 square feet at 3399 Beacon Hill Lane, which is where there's a tower already, and there's already structures there up by the Friendship Township Hall. And then West Traverse Township and Burt Township, West Traverse Township in Emmet County, notified us that their master plan was completed. and, Burt Township Master Plan, they distributed their notice that they're intending to plan.
Alright,
All right.
and we have commissioner comments.
Commissioner comments, you got anything to bring up?
Well, I got a question, since we have our learned counsel, it's been brought up tonight, but I've always been under the impression that if you have a legal business, maybe not a crack house, but okay, a weed shop, a data center, a porn shop, or my favorite, a wind turbine, you have to provide zoning for them. It doesn't have to be next to a school, but you can't exclude them. Is that true?
Yeah, well, so do you mean like if it's not listed as a use in the zoning ordinance?
We can, yeah, as long as it's a legal business, we have to accommodate them in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, do you want like a formal legal opinion on that?
Yeah, because that's where it would go, and that's been brought up.
Well, I agree, is the gentleman earlier wondered if we talked about data centers, which should have been here last month, but, standing room only on data centers in here. But I felt like the information as presented was just the opposite of what he presented.
Because it's exclusionary zoning. And I was under the impression you could not do that if it's a legal business.
Yeah, cause we were asking at that meeting, we don't wanna be exclusionary zoning, but how far can we push it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's.
Right, so what is based on demonstrated need? How is that established?
Demonstrated need for the constituents.
Yeah.
But you can manufacture snowshoes in Florida, they don't use them there. But you can't say we're not, nobody here needs them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
agree. Yeah, and who's the judge and jury of that?
So I just wonder how much we can exclude. Nobody wants a data center. It's
Right.
always not in my backyard. But it's a matter of if you do not find a reasonable, and I guess there is a reasonable nature to whatever you do, find a place for them, and you're beaten, they can go in places you really wouldn't want them to go.
The outreach that brought so many people to the meeting last month was an unnamed social media account using AI to generate fear that data centers were coming. The irony was so rich, right? That like they were using AI to say that we should be opposed to AI. We need to show up to this meeting to demand that there's not data centers.
Yeah.
And yet that would be proof positive that the need is local, literally. It's like complaining about traffic when you're in traffic. You are the traffic.
That was it.
Good. Thanks, Colin. Anybody else? Okay, we'll stand adjourned. June 4th.